What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? Running a little late here on this. I just have to set up the stuff. First name, last name. I thought it was already subbed. Well, here I am. There you go. Their first name, last name. Glad to have you here. Okay, let's see. I've got to mute video sources real quick because that includes my browser thingy here. So, okay, what we're going to do is now we are going to call into the show. Okay, got to get it all set up. How y'all doing? It's been a little bit since I've done a call-in show like this. Let's see, I need to host a show. Getting back on into it. What up there? First name, last name, subscribing. Look at you. All right, we're gonna. I recently re-upped my balance on here, so we're gonna allow 4 people in the queue at one time. Call-in line is that. Okay, host and screener lines are these. Okay, so start, save and start show. Starting show. Okay, now we need a host connection. Y'all are getting a little bit of a behind the scenes-y kind of thing going on here. Hold on, let me get this pulled up over. Call that. All right, y'all don't look. Cover your eyes. I got to put in my PIN number, and y'all cannot see that. Awesome. Dual channel audio recording is on, and I can cut my video sources back on. Hopefully that comes back through. Let's see, video sources. Let me make sure. Property. We got Chrome. All right, the Chrome is what we need in there. Okay, so we're all set up here. That's good. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Let's get this over here. All right, now we're all set up. You should be able to call in if you would like to talk about how Jesus probably didn't exist. The number is 256-634-6984 if you want to call in, or there's a web call-in link down below. We don't have anybody calling in just yet, of course. Still kind of getting started. Yeah, it's great to come back over here. I'm back over here because I got banned. Well, my live stream access got taken away from my TikTok. So I've been doing a lot of streaming over there on TikTok, like doing lives where people can jump in. And there's actually, I've noticed that people are more likely to jump on like a TikTok live than they are to actually, make the effort to call in on these shows. So I've tried to do more stuff over there so I can generate content for the channel here. But I am putting my backup TikTok, tickety-tockety, in the description right now. So anybody that's stopping by, watching, whatever, I would really appreciate it if you would, follow me over there on the Tickety Talk so I can start going live over there again and give you guys some good content. Had a guy that called in and was trying to argue that basically quantum mechanics proves God, and the reason or the way that they got to this conclusion is that basically there has to be somebody watching the particles in order for the particles to move. So the fact that particles are moving everywhere means that a God has to exist, because a God has to be omnipresent to be able to watch all the particles move. I'm not sure how that tracks, but it apparently tracked to him. I'm not, like I said, I didn't get it. He didn't get it. That's the sound of clock mates. Thanks. Yep, that's right, Infidel. Hope you're doing good over there. But let's see, what can we talk about as far as Jesus probably didn't exist. So as far as my view goes, for Jesus not existing, I think that Christianity was developed out of a mystery cult, syncretization with other mystery cults in the Mediterranean area. And the Jews at the time, they syncretized their religion with these Mediterranean mystery cults to produce what would eventually become Christianity. And there's a lot of evidence for this. Like there's evidence of other Jews at the time coming to the same conclusions about an archangel figure that is classified as the Messiah. Like Philo of Alexandria comes to that conclusion. He even describes Jesus in very much the same way. And so Paul, our first evidence of Jesus in history, Paul only mentions him as a revelatory being. This revelatory being never walked on earth as far as Paul is concerned, or at least as far as his epistles tell us. And so I definitely think that or Paul existed, and that he thought of Jesus as this archangel figure that did all of his deeds in the lower parts of the celestial realm, so like just above the firmament. And there's plenty of evidence that it's perfectly fine for crucifixions to happen in the celestial realm. The lower you get in the celestial layers of heaven, the more corporeal things are and the less perfect they are. This is an entire theology that's laid out in Hebrews. So there's that. And then there's, other Christians at the time, they generated stuff like the Ascension of Isaiah, which wasn't written before Paul, but it was written, right there, probably mid to late first century. But basically, the earliest redaction that we can reconstruct of the Ascension of Isaiah never actually has Jesus coming to earth. He actually stops just short of earth and staying in the firmament. There's like this pocket gospel that somehow got inserted into that a little bit later in history. And we know this because of different manuscripts of it. And the internal consistency of the Ascension of Isaiah seems to lend credence to this idea that, that pocket gospel was added later that actually places Jesus on earth. Clink. And in case you guys are wondering, you probably can't see it much, but you can see Voodoo Ranger Tropic Force. It's a tropical IPA. It's actually really good. Oh. This is really short notice, so I'm expecting a slow crawl in of people that would be disagreeing with me. So let's see what else. What else as far as Jesus didn't exist goes? I think the best evidence for Jesus, like historical Jesus, comes from Paul, but that's not really saying too much. I believe that Paul is he's the earliest and only evidence of Jesus, and he only identifies Jesus through revelations or hallucinations, as I think they would be more accurately described. And then these hallucinations are portrayed as being this corporeal Jesus, this very flesh and blood Jesus. It's just that he only exists up in the firmament and not like on earth. You could point to several different verses in Paul for trying to suggest that he thought of Jesus as a historical person, but I feel like all of those verses fall flat and they don't actually reveal anything about it. About like any kind of earthly Jesus. And because of this, I don't think that the disciples were actually real. Now, there is some overlap between the apostles that Paul identifies and the disciples that appear in the Gospels. This is probably because those people were very prominent in the church, like the early church, and so those figures would be known by most people, and so therefore, they ended up they ended up identifying them as like disciples and whatnot. I'll move this. This is my little tripod-y thing that I do for TikTok that I can't use right now because fucking TikTok. Let's see. Heathen sheathens in betweethens and assorted goblin kind, lend me your thumbs. That's pretty good. Philly. Hey there, Philly. Nice to see you. Glad to see you here. Really excited to be able to talk to somebody about why they disagree with my position on whether or not Jesus existed. And this is another thing. Like, it takes a little bit for people to get the courage up to actually call in. There's a web link down below too if you just want to call in over the web. You don't want to expose your phone number or anything like that, but you can feel safe like with calling in here. I don't really care about the phone numbers. The phone numbers aren't presented or anything like that, so you don't have anything to worry about there. Let's see what else. So the Bible isn't true. I haven't fully covered the whole Jesus probably didn't exist argument, but I'm sure somebody would call in with some bullshit stuff. TR. What? Hey, TR, in the comments there, why don't you call in and we can have a discussion? Most historical and biblical scholars are wrong. Lamau. I would really love for you to call in. And
Jesus loves the little children. Maybe a little too much.
TR, I'd love for you to call up so we can talk about the most historical and biblical scholars are wrong. I think that I have good reason to think that they're wrong, and my bet is that most atheists would also agree with that statement. Most historical and biblical scholars, which I feel like that's a little bit of a misrepresentation of the field there, like saying most historical and biblical scholars. Because if you go with just historical scholars, those that are outside of New Testament studies are just going to reference scholars within New Testament studies, as they should, and I don't fault them for that. I definitely think that they should reference the current consensus, which is that Jesus is historical. But what I'm doing here, and what makes it that particular thing not all that compelling, and it shouldn't be compelling to anybody else, is the fact that I'm challenging the evidence that the New Testament scholars say prove that Jesus existed. And we've questioned a number of the historical the historical veracity of many of the patriarchs of the Old Testament. Like, none of them seem to be real, with the exception of maybe King David and some of the other minor kings or whatnot. We have some minor evidence for them. And for a majority of the New Testament, like, we doubt the historicity of a lot of figures that appear in there. Like, we doubt the slaughter of the innocents that appears in Matthew. We doubt, the when Jesus was even born, like, as far as the Gospels tell us. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are doubted. And I just think that, appealing to authority there as your reason for thinking that Jesus did exist, then I feel like you're just shortchanging yourself. Like, you're just being fallacious. What about Alexander the Great? Do you think he existed? That is great. That is a great question. Call in. The number's 256-634-6984. Call in and we can have that discussion there, TR. Really appreciate you if you were to call in. The Muslim apologist, I'd love for you to call in, 256-634-6984. Or if you don't want to use a phone, or if you're outside of the United States, you can hit up the link that's in the description for the web call-in option. But, I'd love to answer those questions if you'd like to come up and actually talk to me. But I'm really trying to mostly, talk to people that want to call in and actually have a conversation, and not just a conversation in the chat. That would be great. The Muslim apologist said, this chump thinks he can disprove the existence of something. He is a walking fallacy. Alhamdulillah. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm from Alabama unless it's Diet Coke. We don't know how to pronounce shit. I'm just saying. Our beloved prophet Isa, Jesus, peace be upon him, was a great teacher and a prophet. Oh, okay. Well, that's good for you. I don't think that he was a prophet because even if he did exist, I don't think that Jesus was a prophet, as reported by like Islam. I got to be honest. I can't wait for my account to be over there on TikTok to be able to use the thing, the TikTok studio thing where I can actually do desktop streaming to it. That would be awesome. It'd also be awesome if somebody could call in, you know, like TR down there laughing his ass off. That would be great to see you up here there, TR. Which is kind of interesting over here on YouTube. You don't have to necessarily be 18 or older in order for me to talk to you, but I do have some standards. So I don't know how old you are there, TR, but as long as you're over like maybe 16, 17, we could definitely have a discussion. I will ask you for your age first so that I can do that. Bingo Jins says, Booze Who Room. Drew Harrison has responded to the Muslim apologist down there. Let's see. Flute Whistle. During the generation of Jesus, was there other religious or political movements? Hey, we could talk about their Flute Whistle. I love these channel names. We could talk about that, their Flute Whistle. But I would just suggest maybe calling up and we can talk about whether or not there were other religions and political movements, because I'd really love to mention those to you. I'd love to educate you on this. Can I be an Ig-Jeezy mythicist? Sure, infidel, if you want to. I'm guessing that means that you just don't care about mythicism. That's another conversation I think is really important to have is, why I guess considering Christian origins is important. But I think also another good conversation is why it cannot be important to some conversations, because I have a nuanced position about whether or not it's good. Like good for the conversation, good to mention in a conversation, and all this other stuff. If I dare you, you're an infidel. Your opinions mean nothing. I mean, by your standards there, the Muslim apologist, I'm an infidel too, so, you know. See, the title doesn't matter. The heathen atheist engineer argues for the non-existence of Jesus. Yes, I do, and I'd love to discuss with you why that's the case. So if you'd like to call in, I'd really love to hear from you. If anybody is trying to call in and you can't get through, let me know, because I can definitely try to fix that. Still connected to the thing. Still no calls in the queue. Tropic Force. Unwelcome nuance. 10-yard penalty. Woo! I can't whistle like that. Like, I don't get that. I don't get how you can do that. Purple said I'd call, but I don't think we disagree on enough to make it an interesting conversation. Yeah, I mean, I know that we probably align pretty well, so maybe not. I don't know. I would love for some of these people talking a lot of shit in the chat though to call up, because I'd really love to talk to like the TR guy who seems to have disappeared. I don't know if TR is still in there. Oh yeah, wait, so sorry. Limited Light, I saw this. Limited Light did a super chat. Sorry, they're Limited Light. Limited Light says, feeling crappy due to 2 vaccinations yesterday, but trying to watch GE on a smart TV. Hi! Hey there, Limited Light. I'm so glad that you're here. Although, I hate that you're, feeling sick from the vaccinations, but I am glad that you got vaccinated, and I'm still working on getting our discussion on the Redeemed Zoomer. I'm still trying to get that edited up. It's just, at work, they promoted me sort of to like a scrum master, recently. And so I've kind of been really bogged down at work with a lot of stuff. If you guys don't know, I am an actual working engineer. I have 2 engineering degrees, which normally behind me I'd point out like my master's, but I've got a master's in software engineering and a bachelor's in computer engineering, and I feel like that really kind of helped me like sort of sift through good and bad information when it comes to the historical Jesus and like Christian origins. Um, so Vic Maelstrom. Oh, Vic retracted. I guess maybe he's going to rewrite it here. Decon Center here, cooking, where I would call in and ask some questions. Okay, there, Decon. Yeah, if you get to a point, where you can call in and ask some questions, I'd really love to hear from you. I'm glad that you're over here. I love seeing, people from, um, TikTok come on over here because I did post a video on TikTok telling people to come on over here and ask me questions and everything like that. Scrum Master, you poor thing. Yeah, I agree. It definitely is kind of a poor situation there on my part, I guess. For that, for your volume could be a little bit higher. I'm seeing that now. I'm a one-man show here. You know what I bet happened? I know exactly what happened there. Let me get to my sound settings. For whatever fucking yep, that's exactly what happened. I'm just gonna have to keep my sound settings open because what's been happening is that the whenever I've been like using the mic, my system has automatically turned it down to like 40%. And so like it ends up with it being like really, really soft. And it's something that it automatically does, and it pisses me off. CR Edgar or Decon says, "Your Jesus Loves the Little Children song took me out." Yeah, I love that. I love making up. I've got a lot of different like alternative like starts of like alternative things. It would be like little shorts that you'd hear on those infomercials that you hear for like songs. I've got one for the Jesus loves the little children, maybe a little too much. There's that. And then there's also our God is an awesome God. I don't know if y'all remember that from like your youth group days or whatnot. I remember it, and it was like a very like thing that stuck in my head. And so the way that I sing it is, our God is an awesome God, he reigns shit from above. With power, something, and God is an awesome good. I don't know. Weird. My computer likes to drop it specifically to 17. I'm sure that if I let it go long enough, it would probably drop it that far. Like again, see, it's already back at 47. Like I have no idea how to like stop this bullshit from happening. I don't know why it does that. Let's see. Set is default device. Read it. Yeah, I have no idea. I think that it automatic. Yep, see, it's doing it right in front of my fucking face. Stop. Maybe if I talk really low, it won't. Nope. Here it goes. There it goes. Input volume. I'm still waiting on somebody to call in. Gay Asparagus says, I joined just in time to hear Godless sing Our God is an Awesome God. Isn't that great? I mean, come on. Who doesn't love Our God is an Awesome God? I mean, seriously. Okay. Mixer. Maybe that it? Get help. We're here to help. Okay, computer, quit listening to me. I said I need help, and like something fucking popped up. What is this? Windows, stop. You're becoming self-aware, you bitch. Ah, shit. You know, I'm gonna have to figure this out later. And for right now, I don't know. I'll keep an eye on my levels, but y'all also keep reminding me down below about it. So an audio equivalent of autofocus. Yeah, it seems like it. Like it automatically tones it down so that it doesn't blow your ears out. Like apparently I can't fucking manage my own sound. Again, you know, we have all 4 lines open, so that I'm allowing it. We're like I'm not a one man show. Allowing it, so it's 256-634-6984. If you've got questions about mythicism, if you got questions about why Jesus didn't exist or why the Bible isn't true, I'd really love to hear from you. I'd love for you to call in. Also, just to note that there is a web call-in feature that you can just hit that web link and you can come on in and everything. I don't know. Maybe if we don't get anybody to call in, maybe we should just like I should find a video to watch and maybe we could just watch like a video. Let's see. Ballerina from the world of John Wick. Okay. All right. Prove Jesus existed. And now you see the trouble is finding something that I haven't already like seen a million times before and refuted and all this other stuff. Let's see. See, we could always go through like YouTube shorts. Oh, I just remembered something that I had planned on going through, maybe as a video, but I could probably do it, you know, like right here, right now. I just need to rearrange my screen a little bit. Let's see. Green Onion math proves Jesus. How is that? I would love to know how that is. Did somebody say that in the chat? If somebody said that in chat, just fucking tell me, like, you know, what, I might as well just change it over there, like on my thing. Unless I bet you it keeps driving me down. Not too bad. Let's see. Skeptic proved Jesus existed. Ehrman, no serious scholar. That's true. I mean, that's well, mostly people who really really follow Ehrman and really put a large stake on what Ehrman says, they will normally do that. Vic says I can't call in, but I'd call in, but I can't today. I have work in a few hours, but I'd certainly debate your position with you. Okay, Vic. Well, I mean, I would love to hear from you sometime if you would like to call in. It's all fun and games until your desktop starts asking you where Sarah Connor is. Yep, that's exactly it. Bill says, I've seen the math proves Jesus stuff in various FB groups. It's all psychobabble. It kind of seems like it. It seems like you'd have to play some numerology bullshit with it, right? All right, still no takers on the call-in stuff. So what I think that I am gonna do, oh, and for anybody that's new here that hasn't been to one of my lives, if you do super chats, a stuffed Jesus, like a puppet Jesus, will come up, and there's different amounts. There's different kind of alerts that pop up and different things. So we've already heard one, and that's Jesus loves the little children a little bit too much. That one, but there are other ones. But I'm gonna get this article from CFI up, which is interesting because I've been on one of the CFI affiliates talking about mythicism in a very positive way. And so it's kind of interesting to hear them kind of post something that's very anti-mythicist. Let's see. Nope. Darwin to Jesus, that one. I know I saved it down. Oh, by the way, I will be on another call-in show this month on the line. The line after dark, or the Sunday show after dark, is the one that I'll be on. Again, just for everybody, if you don't know, the call-in is 256-634-6984. We can talk about anything. If you're friendly, come up and talk. I'll talk to fucking anybody. I also don't believe that God exists. I also say Muhammad, peace be upon him. And I can freely say that here on this particular platform. But I say that as well. So, you know, if you want to call in and, you know, give me some shit about how God exists, that would also be very, very welcomed. Oh, there we go.
I don't know what y'all have heard, but donating is not going to make me stop. Fuck me in the asshole.
There you go. It's not going to make me stop. Oh, fuck me in the asshole. Like I'm, you know, I got in trouble on TikTok, I think, because some Christian was being a bit mouthy to me, and so I was just like, "Do you suck Jesus' dick with that mouth?" Like I said it, and apparently that pissed some Christians off, and they mass reported me. I've heard worse on other live streams on there. So, DeLorean says, "Liked your interview with Lissa. Keep up the good work, man." Oh, thank you so much, there, DeLorean. I'm glad that you enjoyed that. I enjoyed talking to her. About, you know, what she's experienced and everything like that. That was awesome. Well, what the fuck? Yeah, exactly. If you do super chats, the, you know, either Brocephus will say something or Jesus will say something. One of those two people will say something. All right, we're gonna rearrange the thing real quick. Here, we're gonna do a window capture called add existing Bible view. This guy. This one. There we go. I saved it down like as an actual article. I'm still watching for calls, so if you want to call in and talk to me about anything that we're about to go over, please do. If you got any questions, like maybe you're doubting, you know, whether or not Jesus was a myth, I'd really love to hear from you. Let me see. Yep, all the way behind me. Okay. Okay. Still looking for calls. So there's a web link in the description if you would like to call in. There is also the phone number, 256-634-6984. I'd really love to hear from you if you would like to, you know, talk about whether or not Jesus existed or whether or not the Bible is true. I'd love to have that discussion with you. So definitely call in and we could talk about it. Jake the Potato says, "Oh my God, hey GE, hey there Jake, how you doing?" Drew Harrison says, "I'm 100% apathetic about the existence of some preacher in the 1st century CE. If he was real, his life is literally irrelevant to everything that the religion is based on." You know, Drew, I totally and completely understand that position, but I do feel like that position's short-sighted. So I don't know if you can call up Drew, but I'd really love to have a discussion about why I feel like it's important to care about the origins of Christianity, and why everybody should consider it to be important. Not important for every conversation, but important nonetheless. So I don't know if you feel comfortable calling up and having that discussion, but I'd really love to have that discussion with you.
I don't know if y'all know this, but when you get to heaven, your moral actions are not judged. You're only judged for believing in me. Thank you.
See, even Jesus spits facts on occasion. I mean, it's Muppet Jesus, but still. The Mythic Life says, what exactly does Paul tell us about the life and ministry of Jesus? Cheers, Kristen. Thank you so much there, Kristen, from the Mythic Life. So Paul doesn't tell us anything about Jesus's life or ministry. He only tells us about a celestial incarnation of Jesus, the resurrected version of Jesus, which is a magical version of Jesus, and therefore is never actually here on earth. More importantly, Paul never places even an archangel Jesus on earth. He only places him in these hallucinations or these visions that he has. So he tells us nothing about his life, tells nothing about his ministry whatsoever. Yes, EMW, definitely nothing at all. He doesn't tell us anything about Jesus's life. He only tells us about the theology of Christianity. That's all that he says. All right, so we're going to get to the CFI article. We're going to go over it until somebody calls up, until somebody wants to have the conversation. As far as I can tell right now, people are too, I don't want to say afraid to call up, but maybe they're not sure about it. Maybe they just don't. Maybe here's what I'm going to say. I'm way too good at arguing my position that nobody thinks that they can actually refute my position. Everybody in the chat can't refute my logic on this, and so therefore you just don't want to call up because you're afraid that I'll just shoot down your idea. I could totally understand that, and I totally understand how that makes me sound a bit narcissistic, but I feel like that's the only explanation. Again, EMW, I'd love to have that conversation if you'd like to call up and call into the show. That would be awesome if you could. But, okay, so it's an odd role, and this is starting from the top if you can read up there. I'm not sure how big it is on your screen. It's an odd role being the Cassandra to American secular humanists, warning them not to follow a siren call to the intellectual sinkhole. But while the Christ myth theory continues to get airtime, that is the situation. The latest outbreak articulated by Eugene D. Duke Mertz, Old Testament Evidence for a Mythical Jesus, Free Inquiry, December 2023, January 2024, added little new material. Mertz was content to roll out a whole caravan of historical oddities and complexities, stuff nobody is denying, only then to spice it up by returning to a theory of the mystery drama as his explanation for Jesus's non-historicity, a theory demolished more than a century ago by F.C. Coney Bear. Rather than tire the reader with the wearisome refutation of this discredited theory that has little support even among mythicists, it seems worthwhile to try once again to get the mythicists to look at the bigger picture and address a few crucial questions they have so far assiduously ignored. They are made in the form of claims with a minimum of context. So this is kind of interesting. I haven't actually read that particular article by Eugene D. Duke Mertz. I haven't read the Duke's article, but I will say that there is a hefty amount of evidence in the Old Testament that later Jewish Christians identified to be about the Messiah, and that this Old Testament evidence was factored into the New Testament's Gospels and Paul's understanding of the Messiah and of Jesus. And so these things definitely contributed to the development of the mystery cult that we now know as Christianity. But as far as the Old Testament creating Jesus, I would say that that's wrong. But still, I'm still a mythicist, and like I said, the Old Testament evidence does factor into the creation of a mythological savior for Christianity. Never called in before, but I love talking about this stuff, even though I'm an atheist, so I'm not sure how much disagreement we'd have. Well, it kind of seems like we'd have a little bit of disagreement. You seem to disagree with the idea that Paul doesn't say anything about a historical Jesus or anything like that. But I mean, we won't know until you call in and we have the discussion. So I'd really love it if you would call in. But until somebody does call in, which, by the way, the number is 256-634-6984. Yes, I am in North Alabama. But there's also a web call-in link if you would like to call in down there through the web link. You just hit that link. It'll take you directly to the whole call-in feature, and you should be able to get there. See, Benogens says atheists can be just as bigoted and ignorant as any theist. Yes, I will say being bigoted and ignorant is not specific to theists or atheists. You can be bigoted and ignorant while sucking Jesus' dick or being a normal person. Like, it doesn't matter. Okay. Let's see. Mythic Life says by demolished, they mean 2 peer-reviewed books have recently been published on the subject. Yep, I guess so. I mean, honestly, it's quite ridiculous in my opinion, the way that this is all being characterized. See, I'm actually you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop out the chat here. I think I'm gonna add the chat as a little window. Let's see. Probably put, I don't know, my screen is like really full. I don't know if that really shows up. Like, I feel like it's a little ridiculous to have it up like that. Maybe I can it's down a little right here, my eye line. And there. How's that? That's good. I mean, it covers up the background, but I don't really care about the background. Immune response. The strange thing about New Testament scholarship, it seems to have an immune to any hypothesis that threatens their precious scholarly consensus. Immune response. Yes, I definitely agree. Oh, I thought you agreed with that. I don't recall anything Paul said about the life of Jesus except for the Last Supper episode briefly, I think. Well, no, so he doesn't actually, that's not the Last Supper, it's the Lord's Supper. So he doesn't even suggest that it's the Last Supper. And it's definitely not an earthly event that takes place. It's only revealed through a vision. But I mean, we could get through that if you wanted to call up and have the conversation. Green Onion. Somebody asked Green Onion. Oh, see, how do you either A, have a material reality, or B, something from nothing? Green Onion, please call up. I'd love to have that conversation with you. If you would like to call up and ask me that. So I'd really love for you to call up and ask those questions. But I am trying to mainly answer questions given by people that call up. So if you would like to call up, please do. The number is 256-634-6984, or there's a web call-in link that you can hit up, and you'll be able to talk to me. So definitely try those things out. We're gonna get to claim number 1 though on this list here. All right, claim number 1. Why should we ignore the majority consensus of Jesus scholarship around the world and pay attention to a few mythicists operating for the most part outside of the academy? So this is an interesting question. The reason why, looking at the quote unquote fringe views, obviously the consensus is not going to change unless there is first a fringe view. So it kind of almost seems like they're saying, oh, why not just stick with what we've always known and never ever question what we've thought at all, even when somebody brings a compelling and reasonably well argued position? We should just stick with what everybody thinks all the time. Do you understand how stupid that sounds? Do you understand how naive you sound? I mean, obviously any position that is going to get presented that goes against the grain, that goes against the consensus, is going to have, it is not going to have a lot of support behind it at first. Just like with the Moses and Abraham and all the patriarchs of the Old Testament, it was initially a very fringe sort of position to have that eventually over time became the consensus position. The current consensus position now is that Moses and Abraham didn't exist, as far as we can tell. So that became the consensus position. If you're going to sit there and be like, we should always believe what we've always believed and we should never change our beliefs because a position isn't popular, I feel like you're threatening to stagnate in the field. Like you're threatening to put the brakes on a field, and so that the field can no longer progress whatsoever, and you can't change with new information. That's totally anti-scientific, for one, which I know it's history. It's a soft science, but still it's, it takes like reevaluating positions and coming to new conclusions based on new evidence. That is the mark of a good and healthy field, not this bullshit where you just stay in your fucking idiotic state, Next, this is their response to that. The current scholarly view about Jesus outside evangelical seminaries is of an apocalyptic prophet who warned his fellow Jews that the end times were upon them and that the kingdom of God was at hand. This kingdom would happen in their lifetime and would be here on earth, where the Romans would face God's wrath. The Romans saw Yeshua ben Yosef, now known as Jesus Christ, a rabble-rouser, and put him to death, as they were wont to do. I'd call this the forgotten Yeshua theory, because it highlights the Jewish origin of the Christ story, which was buried and forgotten by successive layers of Christian theology. Why should we reject this general consensus arising out of the third quest for the historical Jesus in favor of claims of a small group of enthusiasts? Well, because you're only comparing how popular the arguments are. You're just saying this argument's more popular than this argument, so we should definitely stick with this argument. This is called the ad populum fallacy, or you could go bandwagon fallacy is another name for it, or argument from authority. Basically, all of these people in these authoritative positions on this subject believe this one thing, while these other people believe another thing. You're not actually interrogating the evidence that's being brought forth, or even the arguments that are brought forth by this small fringe group. I think that you should refute the small fringe group. Like, if they really are ridiculous, then you can definitely refute their ideas, given the evidence and the arguments that they make. Don't just refute, the whole thing.
Tater's gonna tate.
Reading between the lines. If you want to call in, feel free. I mean, I'm just up here talking about, this article from CFI. So if you want to call in, feel free to call in. I haven't talked to you in a while, so it'd be nice to catch up a little bit. Remember the number is 256-634-6984. You can hit up that, or there is the link in the description. Green Onion, I'm still waiting on you to call in, bro. Come on, as they were told to do. I'm not sure what he's referencing there. I'm sure it's something to do with me. I haven't been staying up with the chat. Well, then I'm not sure that we're in disagreement then. We're both saying Paul didn't say much about the earthly Jesus, if at all, right? I would agree. But I'm wondering, EMW, do you think that Jesus was a historical person? Or are you part of the crowd that's like, it doesn't matter?
Just a little bit of money.
Best area code ever. Thank you, David. David Hacker. Thank you so much. Best area code. I agree. North Alabama, not the best area, but maybe the best area code. I looked into getting a phone number that I could put 256 DJE Myth, but there's not a DJE Myth that's available in my area whatsoever, or DJE Myth is not available really. Or well, no, it is available. It's just not available in 256. That's all. Okay, we got a caller, which it's probably read between the lines. Hello, caller. You're on the line.
Yes, you're right, John.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
It is me. If you can call me Mike, that's okay.
Mike. Okay. I remember you. I think it was. Oh man, did we meet at the very first the MythCon?
Yep.
Yeah.
MythCon in Milwaukee. Yeah, that was the first time you were doing interviews at the time. That was your the format of your channel. I think when you first started out.
Yep, definitely.
So you yeah, and then we also saw each other at the price debate.
Oh yeah, we did, didn't we? That's so awesome. Yeah,
anyway.
It's been a while since I've been able to see you.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. So I just wanted to follow up. I actually had sent you an email about a month ago or so, maybe a month and a half, about an article that I saw on Academia that was published by, I guess, Chrissy Hansen. And
oh, yeah.
I was wondering if you and Rick had seen it and responded to it at all, because I hadn't seen anything in response.
Yeah.
Do you remember
okay.
it all?
So was that the where Chrissy looked at the rank Raglan?
Yeah, well, sort of. The article is called "The Prior Probability of Jesus Mythicism Regarding Evaluated in Light of the Gospels, Dramatic Date." I don't know. I'm reading from the email that I sent, which was just a link. But take a look at your emails. You'll find it.
Oh yeah. Sorry, it took me a second. Oh yes. Forthcoming. Yeah, I did see that, and I did see. I've got it downloaded, so I haven't had a chance to read through it yet. I did. Excuse me. I did listen to an interview that Chrissy did on MythVision. It was entitled "New Evidence That Refutes Mythicism" or something like that. And so
I don't think I saw that. I tend to stay away from MythVision when I can, but
I mean, I do have to admit, I've not been partial to their live streams ever since my entire thing with Gnostic Informant.
Yeah, I know. Well, speaking of that kind of thing, I saw a couple of weeks ago that Kip was going to do a special on you.
Oh yeah, he did.
That?
It was a 3-hour stream. It was a 3-hour stream. I didn't watch it just because they kept rehashing the same stuff, and basically Kip was trying to like explain how I'm misrepresenting Dr. Boyarin and how I was just wrong about it or something like that. And I mean, I was very specific about the claim, and I feel like at this point Kip is just talking past me, and so that's why
I don't get him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to speak over you. No, I just don't get him. He won't let go. He's like some of these like the conspiracy theorists. They, you show them the truth and you show it right to their face, and they dig in deeper. I don't get it.
Honestly, I don't get it either. All that much. I don't get. I don't get. Kip like really digging his heels in on this, because it's like he doesn't want to admit that Dr. Carrier cites experts in the field of the Talmudic studies as well as the Hebrew Bible, the Dead Sea Scrolls and everything like that. Like he cites experts in the field that support the position that he's presenting there. And this is all just background information, right? Like all of this is just background shit. And it doesn't actually contribute, to the conclusion that he comes to, that Jesus probably didn't exist. So like it factors into it, but it's like it's not the main evidence that we're counting that that points at one way or another. This is all just background information about it, and so it's like he's dug his heels in on that.
Yeah, and the point he makes is more or less irrelevant to the whole issue. It's just not dispositive like he thinks it is.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
I don't see it. Anyway, if you ever want to talk about this whole issue from the standpoint of somebody who came at it out of Judaism as opposed to somebody who came out of Christianity, let me know, because I can have that conversation with you.
Oh, awesome.
Because it's a completely different perspective. It really is.
Well, I'll have to set that up for something a bit more formal than, a call-in show. Because I mean that
Sure.
would be that. I love the different perspectives on this topic. So looking at it from a more, I guess, coming out of Judaism, would be an interesting take on it.
Yeah, because the more I follow the conversation, it seems that virtually everybody in it is. They'll either say that they have always been an atheist, or they came out of Christianity. And it's a different perspective. It really is.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the way I got into it is my wife is a conservative Christian. So it's an interesting thing to look at as to how one became the other.
Right. No. Yeah. It is quite interesting how it transitions like that, huh?
Yeah. And I came to mythicism with the standard, everybody knows, there was a Jesus. Yeah, everybody knows there was a Jesus. Of course, he was a rabbi, that was all.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to take a second. The caller that's in queue right now, I am definitely getting to you. I just want to finish up my call with Michael here real quick, okay? Yeah, sorry, they can hear me on the hold.
Cool. That's okay. Hey, John, that's okay. I'll let you go. Because I just called in off, random. You were looking for callers, so I happened to be at home, so I said I'll call.
Oh, awesome. No, I definitely want that. Like, I definitely, I love talking to, friendlies as well as anybody that's in opposition to me. Because, we haven't been able to, interact. Since except in person and over email and everything like that. So it's always great to be able to interact like sort of one-on-one.
Yep. Okay. Be well.
All right. You too. I'll talk to you later. Okay, Michael?
All right. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. I do want to emphasize, because Hayden Walton in the chat there said Kip's a terrible scholar. I think that Kip is a great scholar in certain areas, like especially Dead Sea Scroll stuff and everything like that. But on very specific topics, much like Bart Ehrman, he has he kind of has blinders on for it, and it seems like there's a reason why, because he works in the field, that he has to be very specific about the positions that he takes. And so because he has to be specific about the positions that he takes, he has to support certain positions despite what he may actually feel. I'm not saying that he feels any different way than what he says. I'm just saying that there's a reason why he has to be very specific in the words that he uses online. And he has a lot more leniency in other areas than he does in like the areas of the historical Jesus. So we're going to get to our next caller. What up there, caller? How you doing?
Hey, pretty good. Boy, I didn't know you had a show. Wow, fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Where do you know me from? I've posted like almost everywhere.
I know Godless Granny, and I watched her interview with Richard Carrier.
Oh, okay, cool. How'd you like it?
So I love Richard Carrier. I love David Fitzgerald, who we interviewed. We have a book club, the Atheist Christian Book Club, and we've had all these guys on, Robert Price also. So I asked her, do you know what the four-source hypothesis is? Do you know what the four-source hypothesis is?
Yeah, I believe that's the one that includes like the Gospel of Mark as one of the founding like gospels or narratives, and then there's Q, and then there's M, and there's L, right? Is that the four
Congratulations.
source?
Well
Huh?
done. So, exactly. Good. So you have, Mark, and then you have Q, the two source hypothesis, but you can go and expand that to where Matthew has his special source and Luke has his special source. And this is a very hotly debated topic. Mark Goodacre out of Duke does not believe in Q. So you got some really good scholars that do. However, if you read Dale Allison and Bart Ehrman, their apocalyptic books about the apocalyptic Jesus, they both came to the same conclusion that Jesus is best understood as an apocalyptic prophet that had a bad weekend in Jerusalem. But they constantly talk about Q, different levels of Q. And you have things in Matthew and Luke, like the Sermon on the Mount, the Lord's Prayer, that are not found in Mark. So they came from somewhere. So to me, that's a fair evidence that we might have some multiple attestation going on.
Well, can I push back a little bit here?
Sure.
Okay, so where I come at from this is that I need to, just my analytical engineer brain, right? I need to be able to distinguish between them, independently coming from a different source, and writing these things and just like making them up, like Matthew making something up, and then that made something up appears in Luke, because there are a few stories in Luke that actually Luke prefers Matthew's version to Mark's version.
Exactly. Now, let me give you another example. In Mark records Jesus walking on the water. But if you look at Matthew adds Peter walking on the water. So there you go, where you have Matthew correcting Mark, and actually, it doesn't look like he has his own eyewitness account, that he's just making, for whatever reason, making Mark different by having Peter walk on the water. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, I get it.
So another reason, let's go to when Richard Carrier debated Craig Evans of Houston, a conservative biblical scholar. And by the way, I'm an atheist. Okay. So what he went to, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I hated that debate. Carrier did great in the debate. What I hated about the debate was the fact that Craig Evans seemed to just literally not even consider Carrier's position. And so like when Craig started off his debate and made his arguments and everything like that, the fact that he just totally ignores everything that Carrier is saying and all the evidence that Carrier lays out, I feel like that automatically like makes him lose the debate, because he doesn't actually respond to anything that Carrier says.
Yeah, and that's not right. But what he went to and what Bart Ehrman goes to is Galatians 1:18 through 20, where it says Jesus met his brother, James obviously, and his closest disciple, Peter. And the key here is there doesn't seem to be an agenda. Paul doesn't seem to be trying to make a theological point. He just matter-of-factly says he met him. So to me, that's a good indication that we might be dealing with a historical Jesus.
Well,
now,
do you know what my pushback is on that?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you know what my pushback is on that?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I just didn't want to repeat anything if you already knew it. So the thing is that position requires a pretty hefty presumption. The presumption is that Paul is referring to a blood relative. The actual words that Paul uses is actually used interchangeably with fraternal kinship. So like the word can mean a blood relative, but it can also mean this fictive kinship. And I feel like when you add in this aspect that Paul's theology necessitates that all Christians are brothers of the Lord, because he states in multiple different verses. I can bring them all up if you really want me to cite them all.
I'm very familiar with the argument. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah. So
that's a perspective. Sure, that could be.
Well, so I've never, and I've spoke to a number of experts in this area. I don't know what like about like how Paul uses like the word there and mentions James. I don't know what makes it to where we have to presume a blood kinship. For me, it's into like, we can't make a conclusion as to whether he was a blood relative or a fictive kinship. I just think that there's more solid arguments on the side of fictive kinship than there is for a blood relative. So I'm in a position of agnosticism, what he actually means, but it seems like a lot of historicists that make this argument as if it's like, oh, this leans in the direction of historicity. They seem to think that the presumption of a blood relation is the one that we should choose, but I've never actually heard a coherent argument that convinces me that we should lead in that direction. You know, I feel like this, a lot of historicists lean heavily on this, but interestingly enough, Carrier actually counts this as evidence for historicity in his final conclusion of the 33 or 1/3 chance that Jesus existed in history. He just counts it as very weak evidence.
Okay. Here's another general view I have. You have this new religion starting out, and what happens? Paul confronts Peter and calls him a hypocrite. They have a controversy. Paul's basically saying, "Oh my God, yeah, you can eat with the Gentiles, behind my back. But when I come, you're kind of a hypocrite." So that just strikes me a real verisimilitude that here we're dealing with a real historical event where they're not just trying to get everybody on the same page. And Acts, to a degree, gets Paul and Peter on the same page. He does try to iron out some of the differences in their theology. But it's still...
I'm sorry, my brain... I'm sorry, my brain wandered off for a moment. Can you repeat what part?
You have the beginning of this new movement, this new religion, and they're trying to get their ducks in a row. So Peter goes and Paul calls Peter a hypocrite when he's refusing to eat with the Gentiles. So what I'm saying is, it's not like the Book of Mormon. If you read the Book of Mormon, you have paper-thin characters. You have cardboard characters. Everybody's real evil or real good. With this, you have real conflict, a real struggle in the church to go, well, what should the Gentiles do? Let's just have them, do these certain things. I think, not eating blood or whatever, meat or whatever. And but do you see what I'm saying? That it just shows a real conflict, a real, aura of historicity.
Right. So, I do want to distinguish things here. So first of all, I do think that there was a lot of disagreement between the early Christians about like what the theology should be in some of these more tangential aspects, like the one that you're mentioning here. But I would point out that in Galatians 2, the basic theology of Christianity, Paul says that he was teaching the exact same thing that Cephas or Peter and the other apostles were teaching, because in Galatians 1, he talks about, coming to Jerusalem, nobody knew him, and he saw James and Peter and all this, these other people. Well, not all these other people, it was only Peter and James at the church in Jerusalem when he came in Galatians 1. But when he talks about coming back to Jerusalem in Galatians 2, he wants to make sure, like the entire purpose is to make sure that he's preaching the same gospel that the other apostles are preaching. And so he comes back and he says that they added nothing to my theology, or they added nothing to my gospel, is what he says. And so it makes it seem like the core gospel that they are preaching is the same, but these tangential opinionated aspects to the theology that do not come from Christ himself are the things that they are arguing over. So these tangential opinionated things don't seem to be central to this idea of what the revealed Jesus that Paul describes is talking about. Like he would have said like this comes from Jesus if that were the case, but he doesn't. That he says that this is my opinion. This does not come from the Lord.
Well, he does different. Sometimes he does say this comes from Jesus, and he does talk about a Last Supper and Jesus' disciples and certain things about Jesus. But
I don't think that that's historical, but
it might not be. But here's another thing: is Christians have no clue who Jesus is. They couldn't put Jesus in history if their life depended on it. They do not believe in a real historical Jesus. They believe in their church's view of Jesus, their pastor's view of Jesus. They are totally clueless. And it's hopefully you can go and educate deluded Christians on who their founder really is. Because the Jesus of here's another good point. You know, the criteria of embarrassment, the way we know about whether Jesus was historical is criteria of embarrassment, multiple attestation, which we discussed, and the criterion of dissimilarity. The embarrassing thing is in Mark 6, remember, Jesus couldn't perform any great miracles. And his brothers say, hey, we got to get this guy out of here. This guy's nuts. So isn't that, to me, why would you put that embarrassing detail? And let's talk about the woman, the Syrophoenician woman, who says...
sorry, can we take these one at a time?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sure.
sorry. I was just going to say, as far as that goes, so Mark is a peculiar gospel in that, you know, in Mark, you know, obviously there's no like birth narrative or anything like that, but that's because Jesus's birth didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was Jesus getting baptized, and then the archangel, that is known as the Messiah, descends from heaven in the form of a dove and inhabits Jesus and wears his skin, like basically possesses Jesus, and walks around Judea performing all these miracles and everything like that. And then this archangel figure leaves Jesus when he dies on the cross. And so that's what we're seeing there in Mark. So it makes total sense for Jesus to be a little bit underpowered and like not able to do things, because Jesus isn't the Son of God, like the literal Son of God, like Matthew, Luke, and John would present Jesus as. He's just inhabited by an archangel figure. And this is shown by plenty of scholars in the field that the descending dove and everything like that is more Greek mythology, and is supposed to represent like a demigod or a god from you know, the celestial realm descending upon earth, and is to be represented by the gods of the time. And so like, given all of this, it makes total sense for, in Mark, the earliest gospel, to represent Jesus as a little bit underpowered. And Mark's gospel was more of like an apostle kind of gospel, meant for the apostles to easily be able to teach people about the theology. And so that's why it's so short. But also, the problem that I have with Mark's gospel is the fact that it doesn't cite any kind of sources or anything like that. So like the fact that we don't have anything for any of this, I mean, it just seems like this is the natural progression of like earthly stories told about Jesus that were created in order to lure members into the cult so that they could then reveal the true mysteries that lie behind the public stories, or these historical gospels, or well, historical presenting gospels.
Well, that's somewhat compelling. And here's the challenge. Is obviously in Luke and Matthew, we have invented contradictory birth narratives. And we just have all sorts, obviously it gets ridiculous. Us atheists love to use the zombies in Matthew. Even Michael Ikonis says that's not historical, that's just apocalyptic teachings or whatever. So the challenge is to try to find the real Jesus, to tease out. And one indication that we might be looking at real Jesus is the Syrophoenician woman. When she says, Jesus, can you heal me? She reaches out to Jesus. And very believably, Jesus says, why should I give the children, the Jews, the chosen ones, their stuff to the dogs? And then she says, even the dogs eat the crumbs. So he seems to be kind of a jerk, kind of a misogynist, sort of figure, don't you think? I mean, doesn't that have a ring of historicity? And his xenophobia shows there too. Why would you include that?
Well, can I ask you something? One, does misogyny at that time seem out of place, or does that seem the norm?
Well, no, great. No, that is a great point. Good point. Yeah. So that was. But how about the xenophobia?
Right. And so
that actually was pretty. You might be destroying my argument as we speak.
Well, that's
the
that's the problem with these criterion of embarrassment sort of claims, like, oh, this is an embarrassing fact, so it's got to be historical. How do we? My questions are typically when I encounter those is, one, how do we know that this was actually embarrassing? Two, how can we know what the Israelites or Jews at the time would have considered embarrassing, and various forms of that. So like, I don't know that would have been embarrassing. Like, it's embarrassing to us now, but obviously it was not embarrassing to like the hundreds of years that Christians controlled the narrative and were able to change things. And we know that they did change things in the Gospels when they were embarrassing. Like, for example, with the ending of Mark. They tacked on like an extended ending to Mark that include like the Great Commission and a post-resurrection appearance to the disciples. And they did this because it was embarrassing for Mark to not include these things when the other Gospels included those things. And so later keepers of the Gospels, they added, that particular thing to accommodate for this embarrassing fact, to like dispel the embarrassing fact. So we definitely know that they were able to change things like in it, and they actively did. So it seems like if this was an embarrassing fact at the time, then they would have eventually changed it to make Jesus look all pretty, but they didn't, which kind of seems to lend credence to this idea that it was just a normal thing. Like, they didn't see it as misogyny. They rather didn't know what misogyny was. They didn't consider that misogyny was like a bad thing.
Excellent points. But you have other things like when he comes and says, Jesus, can I bury my father? And he goes, hey, we got a mission here. Let the dead bury their dead. It's like, it doesn't really make him seem that attractive. And you do have, the typical Christian apologetic where Peter denies Jesus. And, why would you include those details? But yeah,
well, so if I can touch on that. If I can touch on that, that's more of a commentary on how dipshitty not only Jews were at the time, like, because the entire the Gospels, as far as the disciples go, they were a commentary on how bad the Jews were and adhering to like God's law and adhering to what God wants and all this other stuff. So what you have are the Jews being terrible at this, and then stating that, oh, you will deny me 3 times. 1, 3 is a magical number. 2, Jesus, predicting this is, supposed to be some kind of phenomenal prophetic thing. And then 3, the denial of it is just supposed to be about how, people will deny him and people will deny Jesus, even if they met Jesus or they have all this evidence for Jesus, they will deny Jesus. So all of this is like a theological thing. I feel like if we have theological reasons for a story to exist, then there's no way to discern it from actual history.
Well, you're right. I mean, there is so much, talk about the post-resurrection appearances. Are you familiar with Dale Allison?
Yes. I've tried to get Dale on my show. Or wait, maybe it wasn't Dale. Maybe it was James Tabor. One of those two I've tried to get on my show, but they were very reluctant about it.
Well, Dale Allison is one of the top 5 scholars in the world, and he's a Christian, but he talks like an atheist. Like I asked him about the post-resurrection, the road to Emmaus. He goes, I don't know about that. He goes, how about the birth narratives? Go ahead.
So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was just going to say, I remember Dale Allison, he did a show on Paulogia's channel, and Kip Davis had a big problem with the things that Dale Allison was saying. And I emailed Dale Allison to get him on my show, and he's like, well, I've already left a comment and everything like that. And also I have these other issues right now, so I can't really come on your show. And so like, I feel like it's not that he didn't want to come on my show. I just feel like, he had a lot of things going on, and he already responded to Kip and everything like that. And maybe he didn't want to like exacerbate that. So
if you go to Atheist and Christian Book Club, You can see,
Oh, is that a
he
YouTube
was on
channel?
our show, and yeah, well, yeah. You go YouTube Atheist Christian Book Club, and if you scroll enough, you'll see Dale Allison or search for it. But it's a great thing, and one of the problems is everybody's into their own little deal. Like the young are hold off. All they know is the science and the cosmologists. We had Luke Barnes on, which is actually impacting my faith, who just knows cosmology, but then, or Hugh Ross, who thinks that Daniel was written in the 6th century, just insanity. I mean, everybody knows it was written about 167 BC, and there's really good reasons to believe that. But back to what I was saying about Dale Allison. So he thinks, hey, grave robbers might be an option here. I don't really like the fish fry at the Sea of Tiberias. That might be fictional. So he being the scholar he is, what we really love about him is he's honest and transparent. He admits the difficulties. I asked him about, I'm sure you're familiar with, in Matthew, Judas hangs himself. In Acts, he falls off a cliff. And so the Christians, being so desperate and just cannot stand any contradictions, will say, oh, the rope broke off the tree and his guts broke out. And I asked him, and he goes, well, actually, there's a third one where Papias says he was ran over by a wheelbarrow. So there's go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say the Papias thing. It even gets even more ridiculous with you're talking about Judas, right?
Yeah. He blows up and blows out worms and gets as big as the
yeah. Oh yeah, like the Judas that Papias records is like he apparently it's comical. Like you would think that you're watching some kind of weird comedy, but like basically Judas, he bloated to the width of a street. And then, worms and all this other disgusting shit, like were coming out of his orifices and everything like that. And then he died. And so it's like, that's one reason why Bart Ehrman's like, Papias isn't really trusted for any kind of historical information, which I love Bart Ehrman, like his work and everything like that. I use his work regularly for like my research and like my positions and everything. Again, just much like Kip Davis on this hyper specific situation, I typically disagree with him on like the historicity of Jesus and like Christian origins and stuff.
Well, and here's the layman's dilemma. It's like, who do we trust? I mean, now, Richard Carrier is not a New Testament scholar, and there's not many of them, New Textual critics. So, we have to put our confidence in somebody. That's one of the problems. And we have.
If I could say, while Richard Carrier isn't a New Testament scholar, he is an expert. Like specifically, he studied and he presented his dissertation on the 1st century Roman history. So, like for this time period,
and he's the real deal. He's a real PhD from a real university. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that like he is an expert in the field, but just maybe not New Testament history as far as like, or not history, but New Testament studies. Like he doesn't have a New Testament studies degree, but he definitely has a relevant degree in this particular area. So he can tell us exactly what was going on. And there are people dropping off in the call-in queue, and I'm really sorry about that. Yeah. Oh, no. It's great. Okay.
Nice to meet you finally and say hello.
Oh, no, yeah. And just so you know, I did put a link for everybody. Like I did an @ and then the name and everything so people can get to the Christian or Atheist and Christian Book Club. I put that in the description.
And by the way, we did have Bart Ehrman on too, so you can see our interview with Bart Ehrman.
That's
thanks
great.
A lot. It's been nice
no problem. I feel like everybody, if people are interested in this topic and interested in religion in general, they should definitely check out like your channel, the Christian and Atheist Book Club. I think that's
and I would love
fabulous.
I would love to be on your show. I've been on Godless Granny show, Kelly show numerous times, and it's always fun. All right, thanks. I know you got other callers. Bye.
Oh, okay. Bye. It was great talking to you, and I hope you have a great night. Okay.
Same here. Thanks.
All right. Bye. That was a great call. Like I loved being able to field those things and it not be contentious and it just be kind of a conversation. It's always great. We do have another caller to get to, and I really appreciate them hanging on. And if anybody that had called in previously wants to call back in, we will definitely get to you. I'd really love to hear from you. The number is 256-634-6984. I definitely have some time left to talk to people, so definitely call in. But we are getting to our next caller now. Boom. What's up there, caller? How you doing?
Hi, Godless Engineer. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good tonight. You know, I'm on Tropical Beer Hug. I don't know if people can really see that. I'm on Tropical Beer Hug. So this is, it's represented by a beer. Anyways, what's up?
I saw your topic, and I was kind of curious about this, the idea that Jesus probably didn't exist. And I think at some point you talked about the truth of the New Testament, or lack thereof. And I guess I've done some research on this, and it's interesting because you look at the four Gospels, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and much later John. We don't know who wrote them. And, you look at the letters from Paul, and, almost half of them we don't even know if it was actually written by Paul. And it's kind of interesting because, when you take a step back, you realize that really the first recorded written mentions of Jesus is actually the letters of Paul. And anyway, that kind of leads me to a question that I had for you that I don't know if you're familiar with, I guess, the religious artifact called the Shroud of Turin. It's this cloth that some Christians think it's the burial cloth of Jesus. And I did some research on it. And I know, I guess 2 or 3 years ago, there was this new dating method they did where if we assume that the temperature and humidity was stable for 1,200 years and a couple of other things, it dates to around the time of Jesus. And so I looked into it, and it looks like when the Romans were doing these crucifixions, which were these god-awful things, but when they're doing these crucifixions, a big part of this was the idea of humiliating the victims and all that. And that part of it was, they would dispose of the bodies either by leaving them to the dogs and the crows or throwing them in the two graves in an anonymous fashion outside of the city that were set for that. And I wonder how something like the Shroud of Turin could exist when we say, well, Jesus didn't exist, but the drawing on, well, not the drawing, maybe the drawing, I don't know, but the image on the shroud seems consistent with at least one of the Gospels. I think it was John or Luke that talked about the different wounds on him. And so I wonder, I don't know if this is a topic you're familiar with or if you have anything to say on, but I was calling about that.
Yeah, so the Shroud of Turin is well known and it's pretty well studied. I did read about that because it's making the rounds now, on the social media, this study and everything. My problem with it is that you have to assume perfect conditions for 1,200 years and we don't have any kind of data on how it was stored. We don't have any kind of information on how it was taken care of or anything like that. So you have to assume a specific handling of it in order to get it to the first century. And so that right there is a red flag for me as far as the study goes. Now let's just go ahead and assume, sure, it dates the first century. How can we actually pin this to a Jesus figure? Why can't it just be some other figure that was crucified and was later taken down off of a cross? Because we know from Josephus that does happen on occasion.
So actually, and so this is where I have a bit of a problem, because when you look into the way these crucifixions used to happen, is if they didn't take them off the cross, they might be eaten by crows, or they might take them off the cross and feed them to the dogs, but rarely, did they take it off in a whole form. So how could we get a burial cloth that would have that image of what seems to be this Jesus figure?
I definitely agree with you that it's highly unlikely that if Jesus was an apocalyptic rabbi that pissed off the Romans and then he was crucified, I think that it's highly unlikely that he anybody calling for his body to be removed from the cross and properly buried, I feel like it would have fallen on deaf ears. So I definitely agree with you that it's highly unlikely that would have happened. But we do know from Josephus that certain pleads to have people removed from a crucifixion were fulfilled. Josephus pleaded for somebody to be removed from a cross, and that person did end up surviving. But that was because, you know, they were removed from the cross pretty early. Like, they weren't allowed to succumb to either what is it called, exposure, and then, you know, they also, you know, obviously they didn't suffocate or anything like that. So I mean, I agree that it's very specific conditions, and it definitely probably didn't involve people that were already dead. But you know,
okay. Do you know, for the Josephus thing you mentioned, do you know what the crimes were of the victims that he managed to have spared?
I don't know the crimes.
Because one of the
sorry, go ahead.
Because one of the things I found out about this is that it turns out that it did actually happen sometimes that they would do exceptions where, I guess, you know, the family or friends could actually ask for the body. And in some cases, like the Josephus, I can't say it properly. And in the case that you mentioned, you know, there were exceptions where they might be taken down or even spared. But apparently, this is from some document, I guess there was a collection of Roman decisions, but there was this thing where for the really big crimes, like the high crimes of treason and things like that, there were no exceptions for bodies to be taken down. You know, it was always, you know, if it's a high crime, and if you take the Gospels at their word, you know, they see Jesus was convicted of high treason. And so the possibility that they would actually let the body off the cross or anything, you know, it seems kind of exceptional to me. So I don't know. I think that, I don't know. Maybe you have some other thoughts. I feel like maybe it's weak evidence, this whole Shroud of Turin thing, but it is kind of interesting to think. Like, I guess my main point is I think it might be reasonable to think that there was a historical Jesus, and maybe the Shroud might point to him, but even when I try to make the pieces fit and I do the research, and, you know, we find out that they didn't let people of high treason have exceptions, and, you know, they let the crows and the dogs eat the bodies and all this stuff. It's like, how do you even end up with the Shroud? So I don't know. I think I might have hit a dead end, to be honest with you, Godless.
Yeah. I totally understand that, and I think you should be skeptical of it. I was kind of saying, let's say that it dates to the 1st century as kind of like let's progress like, if I was in a discussion with somebody that was proposing that it was 1st century, I'm like, okay, fine, I give you it's 1st century. And so then I kind of went into, like, there's still problems even if it's 1st century. But for me, right, like, I stick to what the science says, and the science has shown that it is actually a medieval forgery dating to about the 12th or the 13th century. A forgery then. We don't have any kind of documentation about the Shroud prior to that point. And for all intents and purposes, this religious object is popping up at the exact time when other forged religious objects were popping up. And so it's kind of like, it seems more like it was just another forged religious object, because I can't tell you how many different religious objects there are. There's like pieces of the cross. There's Jesus's foreskin. There's the crown of thorns and everything. Like there's all over Europe. There's these different things that people have said, oh, this is, you know, part of the, you know, the crucifixion of Jesus and everything. And so, like, this Shroud of Turin just seems to be like another object that's just, you know, it just is claimed to be Jesus's, when it could, in actuality, just be some kind of fabrication by somebody, whether that's, you know, somebody that was covered in, like, maybe pig's blood or even human's blood and wrapped up in a cloth. And then that's, like, you know, how they presented it, or, you know, maybe it's an actual painting or something like that. Like, either way, like, I feel like it could be easily recreated, you know, and it could be shown to be some kind of creative endeavor that appeared in medieval times, and that seems, for all intents and purposes, to be what it is.
I think something you said made me think of something else, and that is that if if the first time it appears in the historical record is in the 1300s, you know, where was it? Like, and let's go back to what you said earlier. Let's just accept for conversation that it's from first century. So maybe it was a first century forgery. Like, we don't have a chain of custody before the 13th century showing that this was actually, you know, this specific Jesus, and it wasn't a first century forgery or anything else. So I feel like, you know, whether we grant or not that first century thing, you know, with that 1200-year assumption, I feel like we're not really that much closer to anything solid. Okay, very, very cool. Thank you very much, Godless, and maybe I'll let one of your other callers call in, speak with you. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, thank you so much for calling in. I love fielding these questions, and I just love people that love to, you know, have these kind of conversations, like, in good faith and everything. So I definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. One thing I haven't been doing is asking for people's names, and I need to start asking for people's names and stuff. So we're going to get to our next caller. Hello, caller. How are you? And what's your name?
Hi there. Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yep. Neither. This is Elliot.
Elliot? Like Elliot from Facebook?
Oh, I'm on Facebook, but yeah.
No, I just meant, like, you know, that's where we mainly interact, is Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit of money.
Okay. Hi, Elliot.
Elliot's accent.
Yeah. Hi, Elliot. How you doing?
How are you doing?
If anybody doesn't know, I have had I guess an official debate with Elliot before. It didn't go quite well, so I'm definitely gonna try to keep my cool as much as I can today, and I definitely want to have a conversation with you. So I appreciate you calling in. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, for sure. And I'd like to apologize. Back, let's see, you had posted on your Facebook group about like James and John not being real characters that existed in history, and I was a little bit snippy with you on that. That I posted Galatians, what is it, 1:19, and asked, "Oh, are you stupid?" So that was not nice. So I apologize for that.
I definitely can attest to how you know, how I lost my cool in the conversation, in any conversation that we've had. So I'm definitely doing my best today to keep my cool and have a good conversation with you and everything like that. So what do you want to talk about specifically?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, there's a whole lot, but I remember you had mentioned Josephus. And so I'm curious, like, you know, the attestation of, you know, Josephus knowing a guy and him calling to be cut down from a cross. And that, like, it's probably, is it just the testimonium that you object to with Josephus, or do you think it's like largely interpolated?
Well, I mean,
or do you generally believe Josephus is legit?
Well, I mean, I think that Josephus is legit in a general sense, but for every you know, historical document we do have to look at it with a skeptical eye, and so we have to you know, try to suss out, like, what could be interpolated, what couldn't be interpolated. We also have to apply what's called the smell test. You know, basically, if something seems a bit fishy, then it probably is fishy, and we shouldn't consider it historical. Is the basic is the basic tact that we take to any historical documentation. But I don't come to, like, the testimonium being a complete fabrication as you know, haphazardly. So there's a lot of different scholars, and I mean, if you want me to, I can bring up the entire list that I have, because I've written extensively about this and presented it in my videos. But there's a lot of authors out there that definitely identify this section of Josephus as being out of place in Josephus and not indicative of what Josephus would write. So that's why we have a discrepancy there. And then there's also reasons why the James passage later in book 20 is also a bit suspect. And so I feel like the reasons why I doubt the certain passages that we place as far as proving like a blood relative of Jesus, why I doubt those things, I feel like it's rooted in real argumentation. It's rooted in good argumentation, and it's rooted in things that make, it either very obvious that it's not a true, truly written by Josephus, or at least it's doubtful that it is. So if something is doubtful, then there's no way that I can say this was written by Josephus, this is what he meant, and so this proves a historical Jesus. Do you understand how I get there?
Yeah. And it's just, like, to me, like, I don't know of anybody who doubts the James, the brother of the Lord, as actually historical, like, unless you're full-on Dutch radical, right? And then, like,
so there are people that
for
doubt
me,
it. You just don't agree with them.
No, I wasn't aware of any that doubted the historicity of that passage. It's
Well,
just the
except for
interpretation.
you said, well, I mean, you said except for Dutch radicals.
Oh, no, that's just me assuming, like, that would be, like, something that a Dutch radical would say. But I don't know of a Dutch radical that has doubted it.
Then why would you say it?
I would bet they would.
I mean, if you don't know of any Dutch radicals that make that argument, then why would you say it?
We got a new member.
I guess to keep it fair. Like, I'm sure I would bet that there are some, but overwhelmingly, I'm not aware of any people that doubt its authenticity.
Okay, well, I mean, there are like peer-reviewed. There is at least one that I know of, peer-reviewed article that doubts it and makes a compelling case against it. But also, I feel like assuming that the James reference in Book 20 of Josephus's Antiquities of the Jews.
Shoot! No, we're talking about different things. We're talking about Galatians? That Paul goes to talk to the brother of the Lord. That's why we're on
Galatians.
Different. Yes.
So, sorry, I thought we were still talking about Josephus.
Okay, so that's where the disconnect came from. Yeah. Plenty of people disagree with that. Yeah, from Josephus.
Okay, well, I mean, from the brother of the Lord, the problem that I have with that is that I haven't heard a coherent argument that suggests that we should take the blood kin relationship versus a fictive kinship. And so ultimately, like, my actual position is that we can't know what he's talking about here. I'm just more convinced by the mythicist argument that it was a fictive kinship rather than it was a blood relation. But ultimately, I can't know in what way he was referring to people. So I remain agnostic.
Yeah. So, you know Chrissy Hansen, right?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. So she did a paper on that and found that in no instance of Greek, of contemporary Koine Greek, is it like a spiritual fictive kinship. There are 0 examples.
So let me ask you this: you're suggesting that we totally toss out Paul's theology in order to interpret what Paul is saying here?
No, what do you mean? How does that contradict his theology?
So maybe you can steelman what is Paul's theology
got it.
on the family of God.
Okay, so I got you. So maybe I was like speaking too general. So when we're naming a person like James, the brother of the Lord, right? That there's no instances of that being a fictive kinship, right?
Well, how can you make that statement? Sorry, there, but how can you make that statement when Paul clearly uses, uses classifiers later on in his epistles when he's talking about people that are literally blood relatives, but here when he's talking about James being the brother of the Lord, he doesn't use any kind of clarifying statements like brother of the Lord in the flesh or anything that would indicate like a blood relationship to the brother. Jesus's family, or not Jesus, but Paul's family of God theology kind of necessitates that all Christians would be a brother of the Lord. So how do you distinguish the phrase brother of the Lord from actual blood kinship that's later on attested by Paul?
Yeah, so that in this way, like referring to James, the brother of the Lord, right? It never refers to fictive kinship, and with contemporary examples, it never does.
The word used for brother literally means that it could be fictive kinship or blood relation. Typically, you would need to sort of add a clarifier, especially considering Paul's theology. That's why I said that you'd have to throw out Paul's theology in order to make this presumption. So, I mean, why are you throwing out Paul's theology on the family of God in order to make this presumption?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I'm doing that, and I'm not sure I understand what you're getting at. But
do you mind if I expound?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this first. Did Paul see all Christians as part of the family of God?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, I could agree with that.
So did Paul consider Jesus to be the firstborn of many brethren?
You're probably referring to a specific passage, but yeah, firstborn, yeah.
Okay, so if you were part of the family of God and Jesus is the firstborn of many brethren, if I call you a brother of the Lord, what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it would be, ambiguous, thus the whole debate about it, but
you don't think that there's a debate, right?
Yeah, I don't think, I know what you mean, though I don't think Paul would talk like that. So, like,
why not? In Galatians, just before Galatians 1:19, he calls everybody that he's speaking to as brothers and sisters, or well, I guess in the original it's just brothers, but I mean, he refers to everybody as brothers, and in other passages he refers to fellow Christians as brothers, like in this fictive kinship way, because Jesus procures this fictive kinship with other Christians through his death and resurrection. So it kind of seems to me like calling somebody brother of the Lord is a rather ambiguous way to refer to a fellow Christian, and may in fact be a way that Christians referred to each other prior to the moniker of Christian being coined.
Well, so, I mean, yeah, that's an interesting point, but so,
what's something that refutes my point?
That there's no examples of it? Like,
no examples of it? I mean, it's all across.
That it is, but
I'm sorry, it's all across Paul's epistles. Examples of him referring to people as brothers, and then also being very specific when he's referring to somebody as a literal blood relative. Like I said, I've got documents that cover all of this, so like I could definitely look up specific passages if you wanted me to. But I'm just saying that like he makes a clear distinction between blood relatives and like fictive kinship, and in this passage, it's ambiguous.
Well, I'm not sure that it would be taken as ambiguous in its context.
I think in its context, it's definitely ambiguous.
Well, to maybe a modern reader,
no. To a first century Koine Greek reader, it's ambiguous.
Well, okay, but I mean, I would read Hansen's paper because I thought it was pretty conclusive.
Okay, if it's pretty conclusive, then you should be able to quote or at least tell me like what's the rationale that Chrissy uses in order to get to the position that we should presume a blood relationship rather than a fictive kinship.
Well, I mean, I could pull it up, but I mean, so okay, so with Pauline theology, he's going to talk about like joint heirs, with Christ, right? And so we're going to inherit everything along with Christ, right? So there's like an idea of being brothers, right? Being
what does it mean to be a brother?
Attached
for
to Christ.
Paul?
To be family, I would say.
Which family?
Mm-hmm. Well, like family in Christ.
Right.
There
right.
You go. So
family in Christ. So when he says that somebody is a brother or a brother of the Lord, what could he mean? I mean, Jesus only attained the Lord status after he died and resurrected, and so therefore he was celestial at that point. So when he talks about being a brother of the Lord, he's talking about being a brother of this celestial figure, is he not?
A brother of a celestial figure. No.
So you don't think the Lord is a celestial figure?
Is the Lord a celestial figure? I mean, I don't think it's necessarily the case. I mean, it wouldn't mean that it couldn't be, but I don't think.
I mean, we're not talking about like a lord and medieval like class structure lord. We're talking about Lord, the celestial ruler of reality and everything. Like that's who he was referencing when he says brother of the Lord. He's not talking about some schmuck down the street. He's talking about like God.
Well, he's talking about Jesus, right? Which
he's talking about the
might
Lord.
Be getting too. Well, I'm not aware of any instance where he mentions Lord that he's not referring to Jesus. And he seems to be,
and Jesus, and so that would be Jesus is part of the Godhead, right?
No, I think we're reading Trinitarianism.
Did Paul know of? Did Paul know of Jesus as anything but a celestial figure?
I believe so. Yeah.
All right. Did he say that Jesus is Lord? He said that Jesus is Lord, right? Which he would then equate with like God, not that he thought that Jesus was God, but that he was on the same level as God, or at least he inhabited the same kind of space as God, or had the same kind of authority as God.
I wouldn't think so. When I read the epistles, I mean everybody reads them differently, but I see it's
hold on. Let me make sure I get this straight. Clearly. When somebody references the Lord, you don't think that they mean like God, or in some sense a celestial being that has control over reality? Like when somebody says, may the Lord be with you, they're not talking about God.
No, they definitely are. I'm talking about Paul's kind of
if Paul were to manifest in front of you, Elliot, and somebody said, may the Lord be with you, like if Paul manifested in front of you and said, may the Lord be with you, who would he be talking about? Would he be talking about a celestial God, or would he be talking about some fuck down the street that like apparently controls your block? Like, which one is he talking about?
Well, I don't think either. So I think he would be talking about Jesus.
He would be talking about Jesus, who is the Lord, and the Lord is who? Is the Lord
Jesus.
God?
No, not under Pauline
theology. The Lord
so.
Is not God. God is God. The Lord is not part of the Godhead, and he's not celestial. He's some bumblefuck down the street. Is that what you're telling me?
I mean, not in those words, but I would say Paul thought of Jesus. What's it? What?
Say bumblefuck. Like the Lord is bumblefuck down the street. Tell me that. Unless you're telling me that the Lord is the bumblefuck down the street, then I mean, I can't see Jesus as anything other than a celestial spirit that is alongside the Lord, maybe alongside God, I should say, not exactly God, but is like in God's court. The Lord is what God uses to create everything. He's his agent of creation. He's the high priest of the Jewish temple, like all of that shit.
Yeah, no, that's legit. I mean, that's a lot of the, I mean, what do we say? That's, I mean, that's a good point, from, to hear from a mythicist. I think that's a good point. But this is
not exactly the clowns that you put out the memes for on Facebook, huh? Kind of fucking intelligent,
it can be, right? I think when the guy, I mean, I don't mean to be offensive, but when the clown gets to the point that he's talking about...
Don't bullshit me about this, Elliot. You mean to be offensive. When you put out your memes on Facebook, you represent mythicists as clowns, and you mean to be offensive. Don't try to bullshit it. Own up to the douchebaggery. I do. I definitely present historicists as being ridiculous at times. Granted, I never represent them as clowns because I value the historicists in scholarship. Like, I value their opinions. But, don't bullshit me about this. Oh, I'm not trying to be offensive. Yes, you are. Don't bullshit me about this.
Well, sure. Well, it's to get laughs from people. But,
historicist.
I mean, yeah, no.
Historicist that deep throat Bart Ehrman's dick. Like, that's who you're trying to appeal to.
Well, that's another good. Yeah, no, that's another good example. When I had that meme of there's a clown behind a computer, and that it says a mythicist needs to, or when a mythicist sends an argumentative email to Bart Ehrman or something like that. I thought that was pretty funny, but
I figured you would.
It's kind of like, what's that?
I mean, yeah, I understand that you put that out there. I mean, I don't think that mythicists are doing that, but whatever. I'm not going to say that mythicists aren't doing that, and I would deny, or I would disparage any mythicist that openly emails Bart Ehrman to give them their peace of mind about his historical position, because that's obviously not going to change his mind, because I know it wouldn't change my mind.
Yeah.
I get historicists emailing me, and it doesn't change my opinion. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a few things with that is that, sometimes, poking fun, I mean, it might make people angry, but I think the more reasonable people, because, I can take, jokes from mythicists too. But just like Matt Dillahunty says, that you sometimes need to poke fun at people so they can understand the absurdity of their beliefs. Right?
Okay.
So
where's the absurdity of mythicism?
Where to begin? Christianity as a mystery cult. Nobody believes that.
Name one thing about Christianity that isn't mystery cult like that Christianity shares with mystery cults. Like, there's obviously differences between them, because that's the general way that mystery cults are. They are syncretized with previous cults, and but there's a common core to all mystery cults. So that of that common core, where does Christianity differ from mystery cults?
Yeah, that it's individualistic.
Yep, that's a common thing amongst mystery cults. So what's next?
It's not secret.
It was secret. We can tell with Paul's letters that he uses a lot of the nomenclature that is used by mystery cults. To refer. Hold on. No. Wait a second. To refer to those that are young in their understanding of Christianity, and those that are fully initiated. He calls them, infant or young, as opposed to old or fully initiated. So there's definitely that language and that sort of knowledge of a differentiation between young or newly initiated or uninitiated and those that are fully initiated into the cult. So next point.
Yeah. So that's another example of something that's silly that mythicists believe, is that it's the overwhelming consensus that this is not mystery cult language, right?
Appeal to ad populum. Appeal to authority, ad populum, bandwagon fallacy. Like, I don't know how many fallacies you want me to name off here that describe the exact thing that you're saying here. Just because a bunch of people agree that it's not mystery cult doesn't mean that it's actually not mystery cult.
Right. So this kind of reminds me of another belief that people hold to, that you can look at one individual thing and be like, okay, I can get behind Christianity being a mystery cult. I can, right? So, but like with a lot of these things, when you put everything together, it just doesn't work, right? So,
like what?
Like
what
you had mentioned work? Bart Ehrman, right?
What doesn't work?
So on every position a mythicist holds, I can't think of one that's not the case. It's the minority view across the line. Sometimes it's
why does that matter?
100.
Why do we have to focus on how popular the argument is? Why can't we focus on what our arguments actually are?
Yeah. So we can, right? And we can take a broad view. We just have to ask ourselves, why does nobody think Christianity started as a mystery cult? Why does nobody take that interpretation of that?
No, Elliot, I don't care about that. I care about the arguments and the logical sense that they make. So if you can make a logical argument for why any one of my positions don't make sense, then I will listen to it. But unless you can make a logical argument as to why my position is false, then I'm not going to listen to it, because I don't care about how many different fucking Christian New Testament apologists tell me that I'm wrong, because I guarantee you that all of those New Testament Christian apologists would say that Jesus definitely resurrected from the dead, and we can know that because of fucking history. Like, they tell me that a magical Jew resurrected from the dead. What I'm looking for are the arguments. What arguments do you use to establish Jesus in history? That's what matters. It's not what fucking Joe Blow Schmo from New Testament Studies thinks and how all of his friends think. It's the arguments that are used. I'm a very sophisticated guy. I mean, granted, I drink on occasion. I'm a very sophisticated guy, and I've read all of the arguments. I've examined all of the arguments. I've listened to both sides, and it seems like the more logical and analytical position is coming from the mythicist side. So what on your end, and I'm going to end on this because we've been going for about 30 minutes here. I'm going to end on this. What of your side presents a logical, analytical position against the evidence that's presented from the mythicist camp? Tell me what that position is, what the evidence is.
So I've never seen evidence of mythicism, so I really couldn't tell you. I've seen like bald assertions.
That's not an argument.
Waving. Yeah, okay. So there's whole books written on the subject, right? So there's an author named Raymond Brown. He wrote about the Old Testament being found in the mystery language in Paul's epistles, right? Which makes a very good case on why the mystery school language doesn't make sense. That
Paul regularly uses mystery cult language in his stuff, so I don't. I haven't read the thing that you're talking about, but it seems fucking wrong. So I mean, I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I know, because I mean, you're not going to look at it, right? Because maybe that would.
No. It's not that I'm not going to look at it. It's that I haven't read it yet. See, this is a common thing
All
that
right.
you do,
Okay,
Elliot.
Fair enough.
No, shut the fuck up, Elliot. Look, this is a common thing that you
So
do.
I'm not
You
gonna
say
be
that
treated like
I'm
that,
not going
right?
to read it, when in actuality, I will read it, but I just haven't fucking read it yet. Why can't you get that through your thick fucking skull at this point, okay? Why can't you just understand that I haven't read it yet, so I don't have an opinion on it? But at the same time, it seems like this guy has a lot riding on him. And if this guy hasn't written past 2014, then he seems like he's not up to date with the most recent information about Christian origins. When was it written?
I don't know. It was a while ago.
Was
He's
it
not
definitely
contemporary.
written before 2014?
So, yes. Yeah.
Okay, then it's
So,
fucking not up to date with the
yeah.
most current scholarship. Present me something that's up to date with the most current fucking scholarship, and I will read it. If you can't, then I just don't give a fuck.
Just look up literally any paper published on textual criticism anywhere, right? So
After 2014.
This is what mythicists do. Yeah, this is what mythicists do. You take Bart Ehrman and say, "Oh, he's crazy. Oh, his ideas are
I don't
so
say that
wild
Bart
out
Ehrman's
there."
crazy.
This
I
is
say that I
every single
disagree with him
history-
on this one particular point. That's
Yeah.
all that I say. I don't say that he's crazy. I use his content regularly. I use his books regularly,
Yep.
especially his peer-reviewed books on the New Testament. I use those regularly in my positions. So don't sit there and act like I just totally throw out Bart Ehrman for everything. I say that I disagree with him on very
No, I'm not
specific
saying that.
topics.
Yeah,
That's exactly
so
what you're
this
fucking
is-
saying right now.
No, I'm not saying just Bart Ehrman. It's with literally everything. Literally
No,
everything.
I don't say just
Literally
Bart Ehrman, but
every-
I'm responding to you talking about how I deal with Bart Ehrman. I disagree with him on hyper-specific topics, but other topics, like, he's perfectly fine on, like, his reasoning is perfectly legitimate, and that's what I've determined through my own research into, like, reading his books and everything like that. So, like, you talking about how I just toss out Bart Ehrman is just fucking wrong, and it's just misleading, and
so here's
it's
what I'm saying.
misrepresenting my position.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. So, like, let's say it's Dan McClellan.
We've been going for about
his
31
views are
minutes
crazy,
now.
right?
I'm going to allow you to make a final statement about like our discussion and everything. I do have one other caller in the queue, so I'm going to get to them, but I do want to give you the last word on this particular topic. So feel free to say what you want, and I won't have any kind of response. You just say what you want.
All right. So I'd say anybody that considers mythicism to be anybody convinced of mythicism, look around. When your friends tell you you're drunk, lay down. To ask them why do you think this is outrageous nonsense, right? And then read a legit scholarly paper or book on the subject. All right. So thanks for having me on. Have a good night.
Okay. Thank you so much, Elliot. I appreciate your call.
Yep.
All right. Lines are still open if you want to call in. I have a little bit more time left before I got to go. I don't know how this other call is going to go. I will say that Richard Carrier is a legit scholar. Raphael Taster is a legit scholar. I disagree with Raphael on a lot of his social positions, but as far as mythicism goes, like, I'm perfectly fine with his positions. I've read his positions. I've went through his book, Questioning the Historicity of Jesus, and is perfectly so. We're gonna get to our next caller. That's coming up right now. What's up, caller? What's your name?
My name is Brian.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. You know, just had that rather contentious call beforehand, but I'm talking to you now. So what's up, buddy?
All right. So I'm just a little confused. So this is one of the problems I have with the mythicist situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is I totally get 100% that like there's no like scientific, I don't know what you'd call it, like scientific or evidential thing that like Jesus existed as a human being, right?
Right.
But the problem is if we don't accept that Jesus exists, because there's like tons of information, tons of writings about him, correct? Is like,
no,
I
don't agree with that, but I'll let you get to your point.
I'm just saying, like, what do we actually accept out of history? For example, like, take the whole, like, I'll grant you, let's just say Jesus isn't God, right? Like, I honestly, I believe that. But let's just say Jesus wasn't God. He was just a dude. Like, it's just kind of weird to me that would you, so, like, when I'm asking you, is it, like, do you accept that Julius Caesar existed as a human being?
Okay. Are you Green Onion?
No.
No. Okay. Sorry. There was somebody Green Onion in
no,
the
that's all good.
comments that kind of asked me about that, I think, or maybe somebody else earlier asked me about that. So yes, I do think that Julius Caesar or you said Alexander the Great, right?
No, I didn't actually. That might have been Green Onion. I'm just saying. What I'm asking, my whatever presupposition or whatever is just like, what do you accept? Like, what would you accept out of history? Like I said, I'll grant you. Like, let's just say, I believe Jesus was God, but like, I'll grant you, like, he was just a human being, right? And like, he was just a nice guy, right? So like, what is it out of history? Like, what is your evidential or expectation of evidence that somebody existed?
Well, I mean, I guess my question would be, what evidence do you think establishes his existence? I mean, typically I go with
no. I'm down, dude. Like, I'm just asking a question. It's like, what is your like, what would that be called? Like, what is your, like, where do you, like, George Washington, like, do we have George Washington's body? We might, I don't even know. But you know what I'm saying is, like, what's your, like, threshold?
We have firsthand accounts from George Washington. We have people referring to George Washington. We have different letters that refer to George Washington. So we definitely have a lot of evidence for a historical George Washington.
I mean, like, you understand. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say also for like Alexander the Great, we have evidence for historical Alexander the Great, Arian, who was an ancient historian. He extensively discusses his sources for Alexander the Great. Two of those sources were his generals, and then we also have other sources in the forms of like physical things like gravestones and other things like that. So we have a lot of different.
Like the first writings of Alexander the Great. Like I didn't bring that up. I brought up Julius Caesar, but I'll just like the first writings of Julius. It was Julius. So yeah, I mean, we have. How much information do we have that has been carried on from the ancient world?
Right.
You know, like, for example.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, it's like, you know, everything was written on parchment paper, which has all disappeared, and they only kept the stuff that actually they felt that actually mattered. So, like, actually, what I think it, not to like appeal to authority kind of thing, but like they say, it's like 99% of like, you know, writings have been lost throughout history. So my only point is it's kind of hard for me, like, to say that Jesus as a human being never existed. I think that's like a very, very far-fetched thing. So you understand what I'm saying is like, maybe we can like get a lot of the things wrong. Maybe like he didn't say exactly what he said or all this stuff. I'll grant you that. Just for the argument. But to say that there was not some dude named, whatever, Yeshua or Jesus or whatever you want to say it, that didn't live in the year like 100 and wasn't a guy that was kind of rebelling against the authorities. I think that's like a little imaginary. You know what I mean? Like, it's obvious that there was some dude that did some stuff around the year 100 that obviously sparked a whole bunch of interest and
Wait,
tons of
around the
writings
year
about him.
100?
I'm sorry, the year 0. Sorry, my fault.
Well, it wouldn't be year 0.
You know
it would have been like year 29 or 30 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying. I'm just saying around that time in the Roman Empire, that there was some dude that was named Jesus that like had a following, and maybe everybody got it wrong, whatever, fine. But to say that like some dude didn't exist in around the year 0 to 33 is kind of, I'm not being mean, but it's just kind of stupid, you know, because like it's obvious that there was some dude, like maybe everybody got it wrong, right? And maybe everybody totally misunderstood what he said, and they created some garbage that you don't agree with. I agree with it, but that's okay. But I'm just to say that like he didn't exist. That's like so far fetched. Like
Okay,
I'll give you an example.
Okay, hold on. So you asked about Julius Caesar, and we have a lot of different pieces of evidence that Julius Caesar existed. We have evidence from like coins that were minted in Julius Caesar's visage.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like we're all good.
Well, hold on, let me talk. I allowed you to talk.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. You're all good. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have coins, we have historical events that could have only happened because Julius Caesar existed. We have certain accounts, not only from friendlies, but also from opposition of Julius Caesar that record him existing. So, I mean, we have a lot of different pieces and lines of evidence that prove that Julius Caesar existed. I'm kind of curious as to why you think that it's rather stupid to question the historicity of Jesus when we've questioned the historicity of other biblical patriarchs like Abraham, Moses, Noah, and all of them. Do you believe that those Old Testament patriarchs actually existed, or are you going in the same way that I am, going against the grain of scholarship?
No, I think they all existed, but let's just stick with like
so you're going
the
against the grain
yeah.
of scholarship there.
Well, see, not yeah.
You're going against the grain of scholarship. I just need you to admit that you're going against the grain of the scholarship that you're appealing to.
No.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Hold on, my friend. Don't get all violent with me. Like we're all good.
I'm not trying
like,
to get violent with you. I'm just trying to get you to understand that you are denying the exact same scholarship that I'm denying, so that kind of puts us on a level playing field here. That you're denying it,
okay, that's
I'm
fine.
denying it.
Well, hold on, because like that's why I didn't bring up Alexander the Great, because Alexander the Great was way earlier. I was bringing up Julius Caesar because of what you said. All the things that you said, I completely agree with. Like, we have so much, coinage and all this other stuff. But on the same end, from like 2,000 years ago, we have a ridiculous amount of manuscripts and a ridiculous amount of people that are talking about this guy Jesus, and they're talking about it. So my point being is like I agree with you. Like you don't have to believe. Like for example, I would accept, and I totally think it's completely rational, Homer, right? You would know that like most people don't believe that Homer was not a person that actually existed. He may have been. There's no proof that he didn't exist, but he was so long ago that like there's a lot of scholarship that's like maybe he was just like a made up thing. I would agree with that. Like I kind of think that there was a guy that Homer existed, but like that's kind of meaningless to the point. My point being is that at the year 0, that's actually not that far away, and we have tons of literature from people that lived around that time. Right, and that's why I wouldn't even go to Alexander the Great.
There's technically no year 0, and 2, Jesus was either born in 4 BCE or 6 CE. So it's one of those two times.
Yeah, exactly. Like the birth time is meaningless. The the exact death date is all meaningless. That's all fine. My point being is that to say that some dude in around the year 0 to 33 that there was some guy around that time that we accept, that there was a guy there that like had a cult that was following him, whatever. He's like, that's kind of crazy. And like, I'm not being a dick in any way, shape, or form. I totally accept and I understand
saying that it's crazy is dickish. So like saying, "Oh, I'm not trying to."
All right,
that's like prefacing a racist statement with saying, "Oh, I'm not a racist." You know, like I mean, I'm not being a dick, but here's this dick statement.
No, I agree. You know, you're all good. I'll concede that point. I was being a little dick, but because that was terrible framing. But my point being is like, here's my actual question that I have for you, right?
Okay.
Let's say that he actually did not exist, right? Let's say that there was just a bunch of dudes that like made up his sayings. What I don't understand. I don't think they did that. No, that's fine. But like, just can you go with me? I'd appreciate if you go.
Well, I mean, I'll go with you. I'll go with you, but that's not how I think Christianity arose. Just so that I can level with you on this. That's not how Christianity arose under my view. And so, like, any kind of hypothetical that you play here, like, I mean, I guess I'm going to agree that they didn't make it up.
I'm not actually making a hypothetical. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cut you off. I'm not making a hypothetical. My actual point is I'll grant you everything. Whatever you want to believe, however you want to think it arose, that's all fine. My point being is and like I grew up in Chicago. I had tons of atheist friends, right? And like that didn't believe in God, didn't believe in Jesus. But like, and they were never mean about Jesus. They never said anything bad about Jesus. And my point being is like, even if it was just like whatever experience that you think happened, how Christianity arose, is like, if you read the red letters of Jesus, I'm not a red letter Jesus kind of guy, but I'm just saying, if you read the red letters of Jesus, did he actually say anything bad? Like modern sensibilities. Is there anything that you actually have a problem with?
I don't care about any of that. The red letters are the Gospels and not like Paul's work. And so like, I don't think that represents anything about Jesus that we can know for sure is history. I think that the Gospels are indeterminate about whatever is history and what isn't history. So there's no way that we can say that anything that he said in the Gospels were historically said by any kind of Jesus figure.
Okay, then I'm going to repeat my question. So, like, maybe I don't want to talk past you because I respect you. You take calls. I love people that take calls and want to have a conversation, right? But I'm going to ask my question again, and I want you to, like, literally focus on take everything out from the Bible and just the red letter Jesus. And don't get me wrong. I know you've done this kind of stuff.
Can I stop you real quick before
this is actually the first time I'm talking to you.
Right. Can I stop you real quick? Can I expand upon something? I don't consider the Gospels to be representative of history. So like whether or not the Gospels contain good red letter ideas, that's not going to matter to me as far as history is concerned. What I'm concerned with is what actual history has to tell us and not what makes me feel good about the Gospels. I think that they can have, like the Gospels, and specifically, they can have good ideas that are in red letters that are attributed to Jesus, and I'm perfectly fine if any modern progressive Christian wants to interpret them that way. But as far as history goes, the Gospels are so far from historical that I feel like nothing that we can identify, in the Gospels are either historical or non-historical. So like it's indeterminate to me. I don't know whether or not Jesus said these things or not. So it really doesn't advance the conversation.
But that's actually my point. So I'll just, you're probably like a progressive guy, correct? Like I said, I was just like bored and going
I care about
YouTube
women's rights. So I mean, I guess I'm progressive from a Christian point of view. See,
like that right there was kind of a loaded question or a loaded framing because
I don't think
like
that's
I care
loaded.
about
I mean,
women's
it's
rights.
directly in the Bible. But anyways, go ahead.
No, I'm like as probably far right as you can possibly get, and then go a little bit farther right. But like to say I don't care about like the way you frame that is like I
Don't
care
tell
about
me you
women's
think
rights. Like I
January
do
6th
too.
was an inside psyop or something.
No. Like I literally don't give a shit about American politics because I think it. This is actually I think like actually me and you. Me being as far right and you being as far left, I think we can have a good conversation about like politics, and we'd probably agree on a lot more. But we just have like different prescriptions for how to fix it, right? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I'm an anti-capitalist, but I'm not a socialist, right? You know what? It's all complicated, but that's not why I'm calling today, and I know that's not what this show's about, right? You know what I mean?
Okay, just to let everybody know that I do have a line open if anybody else wants to call in. I have a few more minutes I can call because I feel like we're kind of getting to the end here on this. The number is 256-634-6984 if you want to call in and talk. But anyways, go right on ahead.
So my point being is like, do you know about you read a lot about history or no?
Yes, I'm fairly read in history, historical research, and everything like that.
All right, cool. So my point being is, if you do understand history and you understand like the ancient world, you would understand how absolutely ridiculously revolutionary, insane that the red letters of Jesus would be.
Well, I think that the red letters of Jesus were definitely curated over an amount of time. And so like, what you think the red letters say are probably not what was originally meant by the red letters. So
like, where's your evidence for that? Where's your evidence for that?
Well,
because like we literally, hold on. We literally have manuscripts from before the Nicene Creed, and it's like a big thing that everybody says, "Oh, the Nicene Creed, the Nicene."
No, we don't have any manuscripts
from before.
We don't have full manuscripts.
I'll let you talk. I promise I'm not fighting with you. Can you do something? Is we have evidence of manuscripts from before the Nicene Creed that is like 99% the same thing. And
how do we know that when we don't have any manuscripts prior to the 3rd century?
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Even if you want to take the 3rd century, do you realize how revolutionary what the red letters were?
Do you understand
in the 3rd century?
Like what do you understand of the amount of scriptural interpolation that happened after the 3rd century?
Okay, I'll repeat what I said.
No. I want you to answer my question. I'm sorry. I want you to answer my question. What do you know about the scriptural interpolation of the New Testament after the 3rd century?
So, for example, all right, I'll explain it like this so that we understand each other. And then I'm going to go back to my point, and I want you to argue my point that I was making. Is we speak English, right? If you go to England, you're from America, correct? Like you live in America. You have an American accent. You're from America,
very
correct? I'm very
Southern as fuck. I'm a hick. I'm a hillbilly. Yeah.
All right, that's cool. I call myself a bridge billy because I'm from the city, but I'm a total hillbilly, right? But I love my hillbilly friends. But my point being is like we're from America, so if you say I pooped in my pants here in America, that would mean you defecated in your pants. If you say that in England, that would mean you farted to us, right? So my point, like your interpret. I'm sorry, I can't say that word. I have problems saying some words. But my point being is that nobody disagrees. Like that's what like like I think the last time you were talking about like what is it called? I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart at the moment. I'm having a brain poop, but that's all these people do and they have atheists, they have secular people, they have people that aren't Christians, and textual criticism. And we try to get back to where they were talking about from the earliest manuscripts. So they're not that far off, right? So my point being is that we have a scripture, we have scriptures, we have manuscripts from before the Nicene Creed. We have a bunch of them that go back really, really far. We don't have the whole codex. Like the first codex we have is from before the Nicene Creed, but before that we have tons of manuscripts. And the things that Jesus was saying were so revolutionary at that time.
So
right?
Hold on. So if I can just push back a little bit here. So the first Council of Nicaea was in 325, and I said that the earliest
Correct.
that we can get is the 3rd century BC AD, and so that's the 200s, like between 200 and 299.
Yes,
that's
the
3rd century.
We
okay?
actually, I think we do have some from the 100s, don't in the 100s.
No.
From the second century.
So hold on. So we have scraps of scripture from previous.
Right.
What I'm talking about is whole ass manuscripts. So the
I think what was the first? Sorry.
Sorry. Well, I mean, there's P52 that reaches to the 2nd century, I believe. But my point is that we can't really track prior to the 3rd century, sometime in the 3rd century. I believe it's Codex Sinaiticus. We can't track the amount of changes that were made to the scriptures, New Testament and Old Testament in the Christian Bible. We can't really track 200 to 300 years of changes of it. So you're trying to tell me that there are 200 to 300 years where the Bible just simply wasn't changed, and then at the 300s when we can actually track changes.
Hold on. You did that. I never said that. I never said that.
I'm talking.
I never said that, my friend.
No. What I'm saying, I'm laying you out the reality of this. So in the 3rd century, we have our first full manuscript, and then after that point, we could track changes, and we see that as time goes on, the changes reduce in number, but they are significantly higher the closer that you get to the 3rd century, right? So as we track the changes in it, we see that they decrease over time, but there were a heavy amount of changes in the 3rd century forward. So we can only guess that it's not it's a blip on the historical scale. It's not there were no changes, all the fucking changes, and then it just slowly, tapers off.
No, can I speak?
Okay.
I'm not. I were you done? Because you're talking to somebody.
Okay.
So here's one. What's that? Oh no, you can go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just saying, what you're proposing is that there were no changes prior to the 3rd century, and then all of a sudden there was a massive amount of changes in the 3rd century onward, and then it slowly tapers off. That seems more illogical to me from my analytical working brain than there being a heavy amount of changes prior to the 3rd century, and then the 3rd century when things were starting to get more centralized and more widely propagated, that it eventually tapered off into small spelling mistakes and everything like that. So it seems to me more illogical what you're presenting than what I'm presenting.
No, I'm actually not. I never argued with you with one thing about that. So you have to understand, I was born and raised Catholic. I left the Catholic Church for different reasons, and I'm probably going to begin in Orthodoxy. But you have to see, you're coming from a presupposition and a paradigm of fundamentalist Christian. I'm going to explain it. And it's from a fundamentalist point of view of where the Bible is the pre-majority, whatever, the supreme thing that we should go off of. I don't believe that. Right? I've never believed that.
I mean, I'm not presenting that.
Yes, you are, because, and I'll explain really quick, right, is what you're doing. And one of the things, like I actually, you're an atheist. I actually have more respect for you as an atheist than I do a lot of Christian fundamental. I argue with them more and I fight with them more because I think a lot of the things that they say are so stupid. Is like what you're saying makes complete sense, and I have no problem with that. I really don't. Like there was probably like some changes like over time. Like for example, I'll give you an example in that I think you would agree with me on. Is that like the adulterous woman story? You know, where like
that was
there's the adulterous woman. Yeah, I wouldn't deny that. It was a story that was like told, but see, like that's why I'm saying you're coming with a presupposition of the Bible being 100% accurate. I don't actually
No. I'm not saying that the Bible is 100% accurate. It's totally antithetical to what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that the Bible is not accurate.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I would agree with you. But the difference is that like, I've actually been looking into this and trying to figure it out. Like when actually like people like take the Bible as like 100% and like this is like 100% accurate. But like it's the tradition that we've had, you know, in the church since like literally the beginning. And like, you know that there's a bunch of like church fathers and everything. And we can actually like piece together within like the first 100 years, almost the entire New Testament. Like, for example, you have the Didache, which was like, even modern scholars will date it to like 90 to 100, you know? And like, there's nothing in the Didache that refutes the New Testament. So like, did some things change? Maybe, you know, like, I mean, dude, like if something, if me and you.
I'm so sorry. I have to interrupt. I don't know how any of this relates to me being a mythicist or mythicism in general. Like, mythicists don't accept the Gospels as being 100% accurate.
I'll explain it. That's what I'm trying to tell you and that's what my call was about is like.
Okay, could you land the plane? That's what I'm asking you. Like, you're trying to land the plane,
I am,
but could you actually put rubber to road here?
Yes. To say that there was not a guy that was named Jesus, you know, that's our transliteration. There was a guy named Jesus around the year 100 to 33, sometime in that area, that didn't have like people coming and listening to him and having a following and people believing in him and people like following what he said and creating a culture and a church around what he said. That's kind of crazy.
It's not crazy.
Like whether you believe he was God,
first of all, it's not between 30 and 100. It's between like 4 BCE and 33 CE for one. For two, for two, there were a lot of apocalyptic preachers that were going around preaching a whole bunch of different things. There were some military messiahs and everything like that. So, like to say, hold on. I've let you talk for a long time. Can you let me talk?
Yeah, you're all good.
Okay. I would greatly appreciate you letting me talk on my own show. So, there were a lot of them going around.
I'm going to take your show over, and I'm going to take it over and make it fun.
I don't like making you. I don't like muting people. Can you let me talk? And
no, don't worry. I'm sorry. I was joking. Have a good one. Have at it.
Okay, so what we're looking for is evidence that the figure that started an apocalyptic preacher movement that later on became Christianity. That's our specific. What we're looking for, right? That's what we're hoping to prove, but we don't have that. What we have are other apocalyptic preachers going around and failing at the time. And then somebody comes upon the scene being like, oh, he's already done it. He's already died and he's already resurrected and he's already come back and he's fulfilled all these things. And you can have like all of this everlasting life as long as you believe in my bullshit. Like, that's what we have in history. We don't have evidence at all of some apocalyptic preacher that was crucified by the Roman government whose memory then propagated this whole belief in a Messiah figure. What we have are different apocalyptic figures. Hold on. what we have are different apocalyptic figures that tried to militarily conquer the Roman government, and when they failed in those respects, their movements died out. That's what we have evidence of in history. We don't have evidence of a failed, or not failed, but like an apocalyptic preacher that was crucified by Romans and then heralded after the fact as being the Messiah of the Jewish people. That's what we don't have in history. What we have is mythology about that person. We don't have any history about that person.
So, but like that's where I have the problem, because like Tacitus talked about him. And
no, Tacitus does not talk about him. Tacitus talks about a Crestus, and Crestus was an actual name of a Jew. Suetonius also records a Crestus, inciting Jews to violence in the 50 CE. And then later on in 64 CE, we hear from Tacitus that the same Crestus or Christians were the ones that were affixed with the burning of Rome. But again, Tacitus is the only one that records this particular thing of Nero. We have other like Cassius Dio, as well as other ancient historians that have alternate explanations for the burning of Rome and who Nero blamed for it. So that doesn't actually prove that Jesus existed. It was also written in the second century.
And then there is Josephus, and
Josephus doesn't prove that Jesus existed. Whatever. The Testimony in Flavianum is wholly inserted, probably by a 3rd century Christian.
You're
most
just
likely
shouting. Hold on. Can you let me speak for a second? So like Josephus does talk about Jesus.
You're regurgitating common historicist points. So I mean, it's a little hard for me not to just automatically assume what your argument's going to be. But go ahead.
No, I just so we do have Josephus. Josephus talks about Jesus, and historians debate whether Josephus said exactly what he said, or if some Christians later kind of overemphasized Jesus. But Josephus was like literally a contemporary of Jesus. Josephus was a contemporary.
No,
he was only a few years later. So he would. What's that?
Josephus was born after. He was born after Jesus supposedly.
No, it was like
killed.
he was born in this. He was born in 35, I believe.
Yeah, which is after Jesus would
have
been.
So he obviously wasn't alive when.
He was killed after Jesus was killed. Or he was alive. He was born after Jesus was killed.
Only a few years after, so he would have known what was going on.
He was not a contemporary of Jesus. He's the nearest contemporary, but he's not a contemporary.
Historians consider contemporary.
No, he's
Josephus
a near
contemporary.
No, it's very specific. He's a near contemporary. He's not a contemporary. So those are two different things.
No, hold on. He's a contemporary of the time of Jesus, between Jesus dying and the temple falling.
No. He's a near contemporary. He's not a contemporary. Like he's the closest thing that we have to a contemporary.
He's a contemporary. I'll repeat what I said.
Paul, so specifically, hold on. Paul would have been a contemporary of Jesus, but Paul never mentions an earthly Jesus. Josephus is a near contemporary, which is a different class of contemporaneous historical account. That would mean that he lives pretty close to the time that Jesus would have been alive. Those are two very distinctively different things.
Yeah, no. So I'll repeat what I said so you understand what I'm saying. He's a contemporary of the time of Jesus, between, I said the time of Jesus. Hold on, listen. Just let me finish. He's a contemporary of the time of Jesus, between Jesus and the temple falling. So he would have known what was going on.
That's not what contemporary means. I'm so sorry, man. I cannot let you move past this point, because that's not what contemporary.
What do you mean, dude?
Contemporary means that it's at the same time that the person would be living. That's what, in this particular context, that's what contemporary means.
Okay,
so he would be a near contemporary.
I'm going to that's fine. You didn't understand. I'll repeat what I said again.
God.
All
no,
right?
Please don't repeat.
He was a contemporary of the time between Jesus dying and the temple falling.
Which means that he's not a contemporary to Jesus. He's not a contemporary to Jesus.
That's fine. I'll grant you that. But my point being is, he was a contemporary of the time.
He's a near contemporary.
Yeah, that's fine. But my point being is that he was a contemporary. Sorry, my friend. Relax. I thought we were having a great conversation. We're getting animated here, and I don't want to do that.
Too, but then you're just sitting there like you don't understand what contemporary means, and I'm like, no, I understand. You don't understand.
No. I fixed what I said. I understand what you're saying, and I'm not going to fight with you. I grant you that. He wasn't alive when Jesus was alive. What I was saying is he was a contemporary of the time from between Jesus dying and the temple falling in 70 AD.
But you understand how that's attempting an equivocation to actual contemporaneous sources.
No, because he's
no,
hold on.
It's legitimately confusing the term contemporary and what it means to be a contemporary. Like, that's exactly what this argument is meant to do. You're confusing the terms.
So, like, what you're saying, contemporary means at a time.
Contemporary means around the time where it would be relevant. In this particular context, it's when Jesus was living. Paul would have been around when Jesus was living. Philo of Alexandria would have been around when Jesus was living. So those are contemporaneous.
Paul wasn't around when Jesus was living.
No, Paul was around when Jesus. Paul would know if Jesus existed. Yes, he did.
No, that's not the story.
No. So Paul was writing in the 50s in his old age, and so that means 20 years earlier, he would have been 20 years younger, and so that just means that he was alive when Jesus was alive. That's what that fucking means. I don't understand how else to describe this to you.
No. Hold on. Take a deep breath. So let's figure this out really quick. We're not in a formal debate. What does contemporary mean?
Oh my God. Okay, hold on. I will define contemporary. Contemporary, living or occurring at the same time.
Yes. So I was right.
No, you were not right. You were not right. Josephus was not living at the same time as Jesus.
Yeah, no, dude, listen. I didn't say he was living at the same time as Jesus. I was saying he was a contemporary. I granted you that he wasn't alive when Jesus was alive. I said he was a contemporary.
That means he's not contemporary. That's the entire point.
Dude,
that means he's not contemporary. He is. I want to hear you say
he
was not contemporary.
No. Read the definition again, my friend.
Okay, read definition: living or occurring at the same time.
Yes. So listen to my argument. No, listen to my argument. Listen to my argument. Listen to my argument again.
Hold on. Your argument is he was living in the time after Jesus, which is not what contemporary means.
No, I'm not saying he was a contemporary of Jesus. I'm saying he was a contemporary of the time between Jesus dying and the fall of the temple.
Right, and I don't give a fuck about that time period. I care about actual contemporaries of Jesus, not contemporaries of the time after Jesus. I'm concerned with contemporaries of Jesus that could have told us whether or not the motherfucker Pip walked around Palestine. Those are the things that I'm concerned about.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Just theoretically, right? This is theoretical. This is another problem I have with my atheist friends. And I have tons of atheist friends. I get along with you guys great. I love you guys because you're honest, and I love honesty. You know what I mean? You just tell you how you feel, and I appreciate that. But here's my question. This is one of the things that I have a huge problem with. If there was a guy that said he was God, right? And then he died. He's like, before he dies, he's like, I'm gonna raise again in 3 days. All right. I'm going to die. They're going to kill me. They're going to persecute me. I'm going to die in 3 days. Right. And then he does. Would you be like, oh, that guy's kind of God? You know what I mean? My point being is, so just hear me out, is one of the problems I have is that everyone's like, there's no writings outside of Christianity. I kind of think that anybody that like seen that actually happen would be a Christian. So I think it's kind of like a false equivocation of like, oh, you need to have somebody that didn't actually believe that had happened. But that's a problem for me. Does that make sense?
I'm sorry. What's the problem for you exactly?
I'll explain it again. So that hypothetically, let's just say me and you were at a bar and I was like, hey, dude, I'm God. Tomorrow, these guys are going to take me. They're going to kill me. And then in 3 days, dude, I'm going to rise, right? And you're like, yeah, whatever. And you keep drinking your beers with me, right? And then the next day, I get taken away. I get killed. And then on the third day, I come over back to you and I'm like, hey, dude, I told you I'm coming alive. Would you not be like, this dude was telling me the truth, right? You get what I'm saying?
Okay. So let me attack this in several different ways. Number one, I don't consider the Gospels to be historical accounts. So like that entire thing is just some anecdotal story that you might tell while you're drunk. Yes, I don't do that when I'm drunk.
No. I'm just saying.
Hold on. Hold on. I'm busy.
Okay, I'll let you go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I don't consider the Gospels or the claims that Jesus makes in the Gospels to be accurate to history. Two, Paul only reveals a celestial Jesus, so it's more like some dude is drunk at the bar and he talks about how he, had a vision of a dude that says that he died for our sins and everything like that. So that's more what it's like. And then three, finally, I don't see Paul as providing us with any kind of information as to whether or not Jesus existed on earth. So like, it seems to me to be indeterminate as to whether or not this person existed. He could have not. Like, I don't know from the given evidence that we have, although I am rather convinced by the more mythicist argument that he probably didn't exist, because I feel like the fact that Christianity is based on mystery cults seems to lend us to the idea that it's a totally mythical savior, because that's how all the other mystery cults operated. So I just have a lot of issues with the way that you're presenting this argument here, and the presumptions that you're adding on to like accepting the Gospels as history.
Okay. No, we can both go our own ways, man. We can. Let me ask you a question, because like I said, I only watched your show. What's that?
Right. No, I was just going to say, I don't care whether or not you believe in a Jesus, a historical Jesus or whatever like that. Like, I don't care. Believe in him if you want to. It's perfectly fine. But if we're going to have a conversation over history, I am going to care whether or not you use actual historical evidence. That's my entire point here. Believe in Jesus if you want to.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I think there's more historical evidence of Jesus than Julius Caesar, and like I don't want to get like, hey, I think we had a great conversation. I really think we got along great. Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind, and then I'll let you go. I'll let you, like, if you got another caller, have another caller. Do you? I like I said, I was just going through YouTube. I seen your show. I thought I'd give you a call and have a good time. No, yeah,
I totally like appreciate you calling in and everything like that. So I definitely appreciate that.
So my question is, if you do a show more often and I could call in, we can have like a good discussion about politics, and like get in an argument about politics.
Okay.
I didn't want to interrupt I'm asking you, do you have like a show about politics? Because, Donald Trump's coming up, and we can go between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. I think we'd have a good conversation about that too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm definitely voting Kamala Harris, as you can tell by my hat.
I don't see. I didn't see that, but I'm voting for Donald Trump because, like, really, I don't like the guy. I can't stand him, but I wanna throw a nuclear bomb like on the politics of Washington. You know what I mean?
Why? Why do you want to destroy the American economy?
No.
No.
My point being is,
that's exactly what Donald Trump wants to do. I'm sorry to shift this to a more political discussion, but that's exactly what Donald Trump wants to do. Like, his main thing is to do. Hold on. His main thing is that he wants to raise tariffs. He wants to put a general tariff on everything. That's going to destroy the American economy. It's going to make things more unaffordable for you. And in fact, most people that argue that they want like a reduction in inflation, they don't actually want a reduction in inflation, because right now inflation's under 3%. But what you actually want is a deflationary period, which always precedes a major recession or a depression. So why do you want to destroy the American economy by sending us into a depressionary period?
Okay, so like, I'm going to ask you a question. Is who put more tariffs on the American economy, Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
I really don't care. My entire point
You
is
don't
that Donald.
care.
No, I don't. Because I'm talking. No, hold on. No. I haven't researched like who's put more tariffs on whichever or whoever.
Yeah,
my
no,
point
it was
is
Joe Biden.
that,
Don't worry about it.
No. My point is that Donald Trump wants to put a general tariff on all imported goods when he becomes president. If he does that, then that's going to pass on the cost to the consumer, and that's going to cause a general tax to raise on all imported goods into America, which is going to put a pretty heavy cost on the American public, because there are a lot of goods that we get in America that are not made in America, and we cannot produce in America. So that is going to make it a lot harder for people to actually buy goods in America. And so it's gonna raise inflation, and the fact that people like you want a deflationary period that would only destroy the American economy makes it a totally illegitimate position to hold, because you want this fantastical position where prices return to a 2020 era, like pre-pandemic era prices, but you can't do that without causing a depression. And at the same time, you want to alleviate taxes, but you also want to increase tariffs that are only going to make you pay more money for goods. So it doesn't make sense, the position that you hold in voting for Donald Trump. If you're voting Donald Trump, then you're voting to destroy America.
Hold on. Come on, you're going on a thing. Can I break in for a second, if you don't mind? Hello?
All right. I do need to go because I got to call my son, but I'll let you have the last word.
No, how about like I asked you again, I think we can have a great conversation about politics. Do you like do a show like a couple times a week? I could call in another time. We can actually just talk about politics and not about religion.
Okay. I mean, maybe. I'm banned from TikTok right now, so maybe, but we'll see.
Well, I'm on YouTube right now. I called from YouTube. So I'm
totally
curious,
understand.
Like,
but
if you want to have a good conversation, man, I can blow you up, and you can try and blow me up. It would be a great time, you know. I'm just asking, do you do like other shows, like?
Yeah, on occasion, like I'll
Thursday?
be on the line this Sunday night at 7 p.m. Central, and
I'm banned from the line. I think Jimmy Snow banned me. But I'm just saying, like, your own personal show, like, like if you don't just do, if you want to do like a show about like next Thursday, if you're going to do a show about politics, I'll call in. We can have a great conversation about politics. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, I do need to get to calling my son. So
yeah, your son's way more important, man. Have yourself a great night. I really do appreciate our conversation, man. I hope we get to talk another time.
All right. Yeah, totally. I mean, I generally don't ban like either callers or people unless they're particularly bigoted or anything like that. So, yeah, I'll definitely be doing more call-in shows on my personal channel here.
All right. Sounds good, man. Have yourself a great night, and tell your son he should be proud to have such a great dad.
Oh, I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Have a good one, man.
All right. You too. Bye. All right, well, that's going to be our show for tonight. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I know I did. Thank you so much for all of the super chats that we got. I'm looking over them now. David Hacker became a shill. Thank you so much. And he also said previous caller was awesome, which was the I think that might have been Michael reading between the lines. And I think that I covered everybody else as far as all that goes. Like I said, I'm trying to get my my backup account up to snuff for streaming on TikTok, so I can start doing that again. So please go down below in the comments section and make sure you follow my TikTok, my backup TikTok, so I can start streaming again soon. I would really appreciate that if y'all could do that. I also have the Atheist and Christian book club link down there. We talked to him earlier. It was a great conversation. Maybe that was a conversation that was the great conversation. But we have all of that down there in the comments, so definitely go down there, check that out. I'd really love it if y'all could join me again. I need to end the show here on Call-In Studio and everything like that. And hang up. Yes, there we go. Sorry, I need to. Okay. Yep.
Jesus loves the little children, maybe a little too much.
EMW, thanks for the show. Thank you, EMW, for joining, and I appreciate the chat there. I mean, I know that we agree more than we disagree, but I appreciate you being in the chat for the entire more than 2 hour show. Really appreciate that. If you will, subscribe if you're not already subscribed and all that kind of good shit. I do need to go because I do need to call my son. Obviously, I think that he is very much more important than any of the bullshit that I'm doing here on YouTube. But I'm going to see if I can figure out this whole mic thing. It's really pissing me off. Anyways, y'all have an awesome night. Y'all have an awesome weekend. We're not going to have a live show tomorrow night because I don't have any videos that I can really respond to, but I will have some live stuff going on probably this weekend. But I also have the line that I'm going to be doing. So definitely check me out on those different spaces. I'll definitely keep you guys up to date on my community tab. And I will talk to you heathens later. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.